Welcome back, everyone, to the SMITE Content Creator Cup, EMEA, Gormizer, JMac, and we're in set number 3, which, JMac, and I might be getting ahead of myself, actually. Instead, I'll start. How are you? You moved.
It feels, every time I sit over on this side of the desk, it just does not feel right. After
because like the mic is like hovering in the wrong part of your peripheral.
It's on the wrong side. I'm sitting at the wrong side of the desk. It doesn't feel natural after doing this for, God, was it 3 years almost that I've been here now?
That's a lot of years.
It just doesn't feel right.
Do like I've done and just always be moving around to different stuff. And then in 8 years, you just like, as long as it's on the right side for the camera, you feel pretty good about it, honestly. Welcome back, though, as we jump into it. As we just saw, Other Than Another, unfortunately, 2 times in a row, boom, boom, loses, 1 to iDavy, 1 to Seagyll. So now, Seagyll, iDavy, those 2 teams are left. And not only are they left, they are the last of the 3 sets that we are watching today. It's a best-of-3 round robin. And top 2 teams, which, maybe spoilers, I think we know who they'll be, will be competing tomorrow in a best-of-5. The winner will go to LAN. We just got to figure out that pesky seeding. Who's going to be number 1? Who's going to be number 2? The good news is they've left us in a position, JMac, where there won't be, as far as I know, mathematically, tiebreakers because of the way the sets will be. What are they playing for? I'm sure that's something that you're really wondering and really curious about at home. Well, the good news is, the main thing is charity on top of everything else. It'll be based on their final season, and it's only for the teams that get to come to LAN. So of these 2 teams that we're about to watch, of the 3 teams we've watched today, only one of them is going to be getting all of this, but one of them will receive an invitation to play at LAN in July at our esports headquarters in Georgia. Behind-the-scenes tour of Titan Forge Studios, access to the SMITE 2 development, and additional loot and goodies, as well as that big old donation to charity on their behalf based on their final seeding in that Final 4 bracket, which will be 1 team of the 3 we've seen today, and 3 teams of the teams you'll see next week in the NASCCC as they do their final bracket as well, and give us 3 teams of 4 that have made it to their LAN qualifier.
I like the emphasis with the head tilt with each of the SCCC and EMEA.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost said a week number. We're no longer in a week. We're now just in the actual qualifier stage. Like,
I do that a lot. Wait, you've just opened my eyes to something. Like, I know I talk with my hands. Aggro has yelled at me a lot because I'll do that and you can hear it on the mics, and so I had to learn to do it like quieter. I would tap my pen a lot or I'd be like writing and I'd write too loud. But I definitely bob my head around EMEA
when it comes to just saying specifically letters.
Yeah,
that's when you get the little head bob.
Katie also likes to point out every time I sound like my dad, and it's way more often than I'd like it to be. If we're looking at the way things have shaken out today and the schedule, well, this is where that thing I was going to tell you is going to come true. Because Team Other Than Another has lost both of their sets, they're 0-2, and mathematically that just means straight up they will not make it to tomorrow. So tomorrow we know it's going to be the matchup that we're about to see, Davy and Seagyll. The thing is, one of them is going to be first seed, one of them is going to be second seed, and that's what we need to figure out, is who's what and where and how. So this next matchup is strictly seeding base, but it is a best of 3. It is a preview of the finals, and honestly, JMac, given the history and stuff that I've actually seen, sometimes winning today and getting first seed tomorrow might actually be worse for you. I've seen a lot of people who will win the quote-unquote preview match and then go lose the finals. So who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what we're going to see? Are they going to be goofy? Are they going to come in and give us 3 40-minute bangers? There's only one way to find out, and that is in this set. Yeah, games. Maybe
we'll get like a peek of it in picks and bans, and then when we actually get into game, we'll see if they kind of solidify that. But yeah, I mean, this is one, easy to spell out. This game doesn't have any major stakes running on it. They are playing for the seeding at this point to see who gets the advantage going into tomorrow, being able to have that first seed position out there. But if they want to have a little bit of fun, not going to fault them for wanting to do so. I think iDavy wanting to hold on to that nigh undefeated, if not a fully undefeated record that he's had so far in his run here through the EMEA, whether that be in the early forms of the group stage, the qualifier stage that was happening over for the region. iDavy has been the team to beat, so we'll have to see if Seagyll has brought what it takes today to actually knock down iDavy. It was looking close in the first set when it was iDavy versus Other Another. It was a dominant performance. by the other another in his squad. I think it was, 14-0 Vulcan for the mid laner on other another.
Yeah.
And then other another team kind of messed around a little bit in game number 2. The Kama mid, Kronos jungle didn't quite work out, so they had to kind of bunker down in game number 3. But iDavy's team had gotten their momentum. They kind of were able to get back on their feet and realize, oh, we do have what it takes to win. They did that. Team Seagyll didn't take any chances. They just played the smite that they know, the way that they know, and they were able to run through. It was a 24-minute game, and then it's a 30-minute game at the very end of that one. So less than an hour of play for them to take down other another. We'll see if they can use some of that momentum that they had to now face off against iDavy.
And how it works. It picks and bans for game number 1. And what they're going to pick up. Davey, hey, if he gets Ares, it turns out pretty good at that god. His Terra at the beginning of the day was a little more off. Fafnir, I think, got banned a couple of times.
TBD. Terra. They're so scared.
You're so scared.
It didn't even do well. You're so terrified, man. Wouldn't it be crazy if I just pull up the 7
Davey's
of hearts
only got
right
3 support gods, and you're banning one of them?
I tried doing a bit and it failed immediately, so I'm going to move on.
I kept quizzing Trelly, like I would grab one.
Yeah.
This one.
Oh, that one.
And I'd say, what card am I holding up, J-Mac?
Oh, God. That is... All right, considering what I can see currently on the table, there's
so
like...
you can't see it on the camera. You can kind of see it there. I've laid out a bunch of blackjack hands because I got really bored 4, 5, 6, 7. In the breaks.
He has 8 hands lying here currently. I see all of them, and then there's one with an additional card to actually make a 21.
You can't leave me. I would take a drink of water, and then I'd flip some cards out, and that was my 5-minute break while the ads were running.
I'm going to start by guessing suit. Is it a spade?
It is not a spade.
All right, well, then I'm over. I'm going to go ahead and say
now give me
Now
give me a thing.
Oh, 5 of clubs. Oh, my God!
That's the 5 of clubs, baby.
What?
He got the spade wrong first, but then he got the actual thing. J-Mac.
Dang, wouldn't it be crazy if I just pulled up like the 7 of hearts right here?
That would have been crazy. I also would have laughed so hard if I looked down and the 7 of hearts was on the table.
I didn't think to look at that.
J-Mac, now all of your predictions for at least one you get one good prediction today.
I'm going and picking up a lottery ticket after this.
I was trying to think where I want to lead this. Okay, so Ares is available.
That's an easy pick up for iDavy's squad.
Medusa.
I love Medusa.
Medusa been pretty good. Medusa been pretty good. First pick. Do you like her up here?
I don't know if Medusa's necessarily top pick right now. I think that she is a strong pick. The buffs to her acid spray, the buffs to her general movement speed as well, being able to move a little bit faster. I mean, when you throw an extra 10 movement speed on a god, that doesn't sound like a whole lot until you realize that's putting her nearly on par with one of the fastest gods in the game of Mercury and Vamana. Like, those are the 2 gods who had the highest base movement speed, and now Medusa is just right behind them. Means that this snake is going to be slithering pretty quick across the battleground. But in general, Medusa doesn't play like a lot of the other hunters do. She's kind of in that weird middle ground of, do I play her like an assassin and build her with all this kind of ability-style damage player, almost like a mage or an assassin? Or do I play her like a hunter? She sometimes hits that weird middle ground, and right now we've been seeing kind of the Blackthorn Soul Eater combo from her to kind of get her more towards that jungle assassin style of play. So she has some flexibility. I personally like when you just build full blast or red item build for her, get the blue stone out there, and then immediately start going into things like the Crusher, the Heart Seeker, maybe pick up a Fail Not if you want a little bit of crit chance in there, and it just does an insane amount of damage for her. But she's a very flexible hunter in that role. Maybe that's why we see so much priority.
She's been, in the games we got to see her earlier, she's been kind of mix and matching, right? Like literally what you said, where it's just sometimes you grab an item and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to go this way and see what I can do with it. Very good, though, as it turns out. When you've got really high damage, good autos, good abilities, and you can find a build that manages to somehow make all of those even better, yeah, it's going to make you look good all around. I also have to say I now am currently loving what we've got over here because there's a Hebo. And not often do we get to see one. And then on top of that, the fact that it's locked up so high, and this has been a weird dynamic, but it could be mid. There's nothing that says, hey, this is not mid, right? You don't have any other mages. You don't have an assassin. There's nothing that's locking him to mid. Could be in jungle. Could be either. And that ambiguity is something I always have come to appreciate in picks and bans.
And unfortunately, this Hebo is into a Sobek Odin now. Odin locked in after the Hebo makes it a little bit more difficult for the Hebo to exist, whether that be in mid or be in jungle. Already, the Sobek is a tough matchup for the Hebo because you throw down that water carpet, sure, you're going to get that movement speed to get away, but lurking in the waters doesn't care about that. Sobek can just chase you ultimate on side of the carpet, and even if you do try and ult away with that crushing wave, Sobek still has plenty of continued follow-up chase. You can go for that pluck, try and pull them back in. But now that you throw an Odin on top of that one, you're definitely not getting out of the cage. Phantom Shell is going to be a necessity for Team Seagyll to try and find iDavy with this early composition. And we've been seeing this rise of Shibalanke as well. He's kind of been poking his head out in this event this weekend. And I'm not sure if it's just a player preference thing. I don't know if there was some kind of like shadow buff that came his way. I believe next patch, he's going to be getting a little bit of an extra boost there with the branching bolas being able to proc items, but that's not a thing just yet. So I'm not sure what the uptick rise in of Shibalanke is.
Your future sight is giving you too much. He's going to be great. No, it's been fun to watch in Game 3 earlier. One of my favorite moments so far, maybe the Content Creator Cup. And there's been a lot of funny moments when we do those listen-ins over the first few weeks. And then sometimes when we don't do listen-ins, I'm looking over at you, Hazer. But this Shibalanke, and specifically being able to use the ultimate to like facilitate further damage, right? Your autos go longer now. And seeing it, we've seen not only the long shot autos connect and get a kill, we saw them branch off of a tower to get a kill. Like it was... Turns out, Shibalanke, if you in the right hands, pretty good. Turns out, Team iDavy, they were the right hands earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, I think Shibalanke is still just a fine pick. He's not going to necessarily do anything worse than any hunter out there. Sure, he's not going to have, like, the auto-attack speed that some of the other hunters might, but he does get free damage from his passive. That extra damage allows him to maybe kind of stray away from your traditional style build. You don't have to go the same amount of damage as everyone else because you're going to be getting that for free in your passive. If you do still follow the build, then you will have a little bit more in-hand damage to be able to kind of fight and play along with. So I like the flexibility that Shibalanke affords. Being able to go into Death Soul early makes your branching bolas effectively free damage that you're going to be getting refunded on your mana there all the time. So I like the pick. The Jingwei Ganesh after is what now confuses me a bit. And it's mostly because I'm not entirely... I mean, this does feel like it would just be the dual lane. You throw Medusa in mid, put Hebo in the jungle, Osiris solo. That seems like to be the play that Team Seagyll is going for.
Yeah.
But having Ganesh, Osiris be your front line leads to me for this to be more of a multi-dive style of composition from Team Seagyll and just telling the Jingwei, deal with it on your own. I mean, it is one of the safest hunters in the game, so Jingwei can handle herself no problem in the back line. But this composition, especially with the Ganesh, Hebo, Osiris, just feels like this is a dive in, guns blazing, see if we can pick up any kind of kill. And up against iDavy's team, they've got great ways to deal with that. You have the Sobek to displace this tank if they go too far forward. Now they're even further out of position. Same thing with the Odin. If they jump in a little too far, too many grouped up, drop down that cage, walk away, team fight is over, no big deal. Then you throw in this Kleena, and this is the weird one for me because Kleena's not bad necessarily right now, but Kleena's seen a little bit more success in the mid lane, or when Bluestone was more prevalent, you could build Kleena Bluestone in the jungle and kind of get away with that. I've now also broken away from my analysis to look over because you have made entirely just blackjack hands on your side of the desk.
Yeah.
I know at least one of those is a winning one.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
I know at least one of those hands is a winner.
Which one?
The one that has 2 8s facing up, because that's 2 8s and a 5. And that's all I know.
Yeah, that is all you know.
And then there's an ace under one of those too. I don't remember where.
Well, there's not. It's on
no, there's an ace there, but there's also like an ace of spades somewhere. I'm not going to take that gamble. I've already gotten my one win.
This one's my hand.
I know what this card is.
That's the marked card.
Yeah.
Kleena is, like you said, an interesting one because Kleena has been... I guess the way I want to word it is, I don't really care what Dark plays because Dark has been great in the jungle. And Kleena is, like, really good in the right hands. Dark's been really good in the jungle. It feels like maybe it's just going to do good. Maybe that's just what I'm expecting. Maybe I'm projecting bias from earlier set, but you played a Mina Wheelish, and for some reason a Wheelish and Kleena are like this in my brain. And so I just imagine that it's going to go well. But I also know that, like you said, there's going to be some awkward moments, and it's mainly into Ganesh, like, silence, right? Like, that's where it really is going to create some trouble. But aim blue on the Agni, that's a pretty common combination that we've got a lot of. Mentioned the Shibalanke earlier. Like, it just feels like there's a lot of things that iDavy got that iDavy like to play as the team, not just the player.
Yeah, well, is this one that iDavy as the player would also like? We've seen, I think,
like
a little bit of Sobek. I know Ares and Terra are like the two. When we say iDavy in support for his team, Terra and Ares are the two that we always immediately go towards. But I think Sobek kind of falls in similar lines. I think he also may have had a Kuzenbo at one point, but I mean, the Sobek kind of plays very similarly. It's a very aggressive support, so I've got faith in iDavy to be able to land some of those plucks, even if it takes him 1 or 2 just to get warmed up.
And you know what? We'll see if he needs that warm-up as we jump into game number 1 here for set number 3. Again, these are the 2 teams that will be playing tomorrow. It is just the question of what seeding are they going to be doing it in? Who's number 1? Who's number 2?
That's the question we're ultimately trying to figure out.
I was looking at the gods to see if everything landed around where we thought they would. Like, Team iDavy, that was a pretty easy, straightforward one. It was mainly Medusa in mid or Jingwei in mid, and you nailed it. Medusa in mid. Jingwei left to just survive and do her thing.
Medusa going for the Blackthorn style of build once more, so going to be a little bit tankier. Go for the Soul Eater after, so you'll have decent sustain.
And then after
still
that,
just good poke.
It's free
You're just going to
pickings.
do whatever at that point. I don't believe we've seen much duality just yet out of any of the players. I think maybe a bit of a slept-on item at the moment. Even if you're not building a build path that would utilize the on-hit effect style of the passive that duality provides to you, it's still a 55 physical power item, which is the highest physical power item in the game, as well as giving you just 25% bonus damage on an auto attack. It's essentially just a mini Hydra without you ever having to use an ability. So whether or not you get something like a Bluestone or a Heartseeker or a Crusher to get those extra procs, just having extra damage out there really does boost up the amount of immediate burst that you can provide. And it also stacks along with a Hydra's or a crit proc. So if you crit somebody for 500 damage, your duality proc is also going to apply from that 500. You're going to get 25% of that 500 as extra damage on that auto. So I don't see a world where you wouldn't necessarily want to go that one, but we just haven't been seeing a whole lot of it yet.
All the crit talk has me having flashbacks to Soul last weekend.
Oh, man.
And there's going to be, an early kill. It's Dusher on the Medusa, able to find exactly what you need. A kill, not just a kill in first blood for your mid laner on one of the most coveted picks right now, but against the jungler as well on that cleanup. You take down Dark. That's a huge pickup.
Yeah, massive start for Dutch. You're going to get that Blackthorn super early, and if it was tough to kill the Medusa in the early 2v2, it's going to be even more difficult once she's got an extra 300 plus HP tied to her name, plus the damage. Gagovski going to make a rotation over to try and help push up the dual lane, but there's not a whole lot that you can do to really chase out a Sobek or Shibalanke. At best, you catch the Shibalanke before he hits the CC immune portion of his dash. At worst, you just hit him for some damage and he's already back and safe at tier 1 tower line. So, good on Gagovski to try and help out in duo, but unfortunately, this early in the game as a Hebo, you don't have a whole lot of damage, and your chase really isn't that strong. Maybe a pick for iDavy if they can find the pluck on someone.
And there's the pluck, there's the autos. All you need is a little bit more. Shell used. But I don't know if La Revolution is getting out of there, and the answer is no. The taunt afterward. You had said, maybe Davey would need a little bit of a warm-up to hit those plucks. I think at least the 2 that I've seen him throw out have connected. Dark, though, has to play carefully. There's a wall nearby, so you can just run away. Odin as well, relatively low there for Yor, so fall back, play safe, retreat. JMac, it's 1-1. 300, 200 gold separating these teams. This fight, if there is one, could potentially change much, but Atlas of the Yellow River, and Hebo just walks away.
Hebo's 4th ultimate. That Atlas of the Yellow River. Fight around purple buff. Bit of an invade attempt here by Team iDavy. Gonna come out empty-handed, I think, on this one. Actually, they may have been able to steal that one away. So a nice little pickup there for Ragna, taking that one away from Veyron and La Revolucion. So denying some XP and most importantly denying that buff camp away from the Jingwei. Already a tough early game for Jingwei. Not really the best hunter at early game boxing. Still very safe, but losing out on that buff, that XP, and more than anything, denying hitting that immediate level 5 is so important in these early games.
Yeah, being able to siphon a little bit of that away, and specifically in the duo lane where you already now have a kill. So you get a small bonus. You're up, well, we'll call it half a level for now. It opens up a massive conversation for him. And most of it's around Davy's pluck. If he hits, it's usually going to be pretty good. Jingwei can at least dash away off of it. Ganesh can dash after it, right? But it's only so much you can do to try and disengage. The minions are going to play a big role over here. This is Dark on the right-hand side of the map. Gank seems to be going well in terms of damage, but distance is the problem this time. Seagyll is able to make it under tower and doesn't have to worry too much about any more from the cleanup.
Yeah, it's very difficult to gank an Osiris at this stage of the game as a cleanup. Not as difficult to gank the duo lane, though. iDavy goes into lurking in the waters, but great ult from Gagowski against the wall. Make sure to clip Davy and pick up second kill for Team Seagyll, and that's a start that you want on your Hebo. Not a great early game god. His damage isn't quite there until you get a couple of levels and a couple of items online. So getting one with just that tier 2 Doom Orb, that extra flat pen afforded to you from that item, gives you that extra little spike of damage that you do need early for those kills.
Ever since you said it, I'm going to be completely honest, I've been thinking about Atlas of the Yellow River. And, like, because the joke for Hebo having, you know, multiple ults is because the damage numbers on everything. But, like, Atlas of the Yellow River, you get move speed, you're immune to slows, like...
You slow them.
It's a pretty good ability, all things considered. Like, it's just a simple little rectangle. But that little rectangle gets a lot done.
It lasts for so long. It's like you said, and the combo on me, it's you get movement speed for yourself and your team. You and your team get slow immunity. And then on top of that, you also make sure that they're moving slower so that they can't continue to chase out. And that doesn't seem like a whole lot at the surface until you then add all three together. It's just, here is a giant no-play line that you are not allowed to fight me or chase me on. And it just makes it so easy for his team to either get into a fight, get out of a fight. And the river lasts for so long. It's not like he throws it up and then a second or two later it's gone. That thing sits there for like 5-6 seconds before it fades away. That is so much extra time for your team to be able to engage or disengage in a fight.
It's pretty massive.
Oh, I'm sorry, 7 seconds.
That's actually
even crazier.
That's wild.
It used to be 40% on the slows, too. Or not 40, 50% on the slows. It's been nerfed down to 40 because he was just that crazy. So it's less ultimate-like now. But I'd still say it's 7 seconds. That's really good.
Especially when you start to think about the fact, like, Jungle Hebo, narrow corridors, like, Atlas of the Yellow River is so good at controlling zones. But only in certain areas. And then for the other areas that aren't controlled by that, you just smack them really hard with every other ability you have. The downside is your ult is your only means of disengage in the event that you get caught out, and also you are kind of like, you already said it, you're just slow to scale up. It takes a little while to get to the point where you're feeling like you have legitimately 3 ultimates to do that damage. Meanwhile, if Davy's able to connect on any plucks, unfortunately that one we saw kind of thread the needle between the two. There's one. As he picks him up, throws him back. It's Jingwei, unfortunately, for him, so it's not going to amount to much. But that's where some of the pressure is going to rely, and it depends on how they can translate that to the rest of the map. Speaking of the rest of the map, Odin Cage dropped, and it's Yor actually falling back. Dark is getting aggressive. Not sure they want this fight. They think they can take the damage of the Hebo. They're going to fall back instead. Dark staying engaged just enough, and he's got just enough gap clear that he's going to throw it out there and gets the kill, exactly what he needs, but he trades it out thanks to the tower. Seagyll gets the credit for that one, and now you're back to the standard 1v1, but a jungle for jungle trade over on the right side of the map.
Yeah, here's the problem with Hebo. He's about as tanky as a piece of wet paper that he throws on the floor. No matter how good that Atlas of the Yellow River is, no matter how much damage you do not take damage very well as a Hebo. And spoiler alert for those who are in the loop and the know of what's coming next patch, it's going to be even easier to kill a Hebo. He's going to be so much less tanky than he already is at this point. So getting those reps in now on the Hebo is nice for Gagowski whenever he might not be able to play the Hebo as efficiently come next patch, but yeah, taking a fight this early in, especially against one as strong as Kleena and Odin. I mean, that third ability from Odin, that spear, does so much damage, even ever since the change to the spear took place and it only has the 2 pulses and then the spear toss. You're getting an immense amount of damage. It's like 500 some odd base damage once you have that fully leveled up. That's about half of Hebo's health at this point of the game.
Chunk him down, take him out. Slower over the last couple of moments. I'm wondering where Seagyll's going to get aggressive. I would think, personally, that first blood went so well that it would maybe open up more of a conversation in mid. And maybe it is right now. Bull Demon is their main target on the right side of the map. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any contest from it. This is one that's always interesting to see how teams play around it, because early on, losing it is the experience and the gold mainly of just getting it, because like Davy's probably placed the most wards, and they've got quite a few in pocket that they're going to have to hold on to. But it's not the biggest deal right now, right? 9 minutes in, you've got like 3-4 wards on the map maybe as a team. And, you know, if I was willing to look and stare and count, I could probably tell you exactly how many they have.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
But realistically, that's not the big gold gain, right, just yet. But you do that again at any point. Or if they had delayed it and they were going to pick it up in, let's say, a minute and a half, then suddenly we're having a different conversation. And it's so unfortunate for Davey that it was a Jingwei picked up. That was a very smart pick. It's so unfortunate for Dark to get caught out like that. I mean, just 3 wrap around, and that's that combo you were talking about in Picks and Bans.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice easy kill when the Kleena doesn't have defense and it's surrounded by 3. Plus with Dutcher already having that Soul Eater nearly finished up. Plenty of extra damage. Rotation towards Veyron does get that airstrike out, so a little less safety to the Jingwei, but Jingwei is almost never threatened by a Sobek just by nature of that agility and the secondary benefit of it, being able to dash from any form of knockup and get that extra distance. So if Veyron plays it right, should never feel a real threat in any 1v2 or 2v2 scenario where the Sobek is there. It's the other gods that the Jingwei then has to worry about, the ones that don't have the knockup, whose dashes are just going to be dealing damage as opposed to trying to displace theirs. So Veyron losing out on the ultimate isn't the end of the world, but probably shouldn't take a boxing match up against Ragnar this early in the game.
Beacon will spawn in. Just a little over a minute. You've got a Fury still standing, waiting. You've got Dark put into the ground for a 4th time this game. Look, if you're going to focus your efforts the way Team Seagyll has, Jimmy, there's worse ways to do it, right? Because you have exclusively killed off the jungler at this point. A lot of the times we see the supports getting killed off and that being in trouble, and Davey does have a death, but 4 out of 5 deaths all falling onto Dark. The fact that it hasn't resulted in like a massive experience lead for the Hebo just yet means I want to see a little more out of the jungle. I want to see more from this dual lane as they get aggressive. Right now they're aiming for Veyron.
Oh, one more hit.
Holding on for a little bit, but good body blocks, and specifically very far away so the bullets don't branch, is perfect positioning from La Revolution. And you make sure to stay in a good spot. Unfortunately, maybe overcommitted to that defense. You're baiting, you're pulling your team in. You've got 1 kill off of the ultimate. Yes, you might lose your life, but your team's going to pick up even more. The dual lane for Team iDavy crumble under the pressure of the rotations from Team Seagyll. And now they might even want a little more. Seagyll is going to go for the slows, the lockdown. You've got Veyron back thanks to that passive. You've got the Medusa. You've got everything you need. It's going to be a Fury pull and a dare to iDavy and crew to step up.
I don't think you want to pull Gold Fury with Aim Blue nearby. He's one of the best damage dealers on the map right now around this objective, and Gagowski is not going to take a 1v1 against Dark. Dark just deals way more damage than Gagowski can return in that immediate amount of burst. So good return fire from iDavy squad to make sure that Team Seagyll does not get to try and dare around the Gold Fury at all. Instead, we'll just force them away and get themselves set up for that beacon. Team iDavy does have at least that little bit to fall back onto, is to get some extra structure damage out there. Try and help this Jingwei a little bit, or try and put this Jingwei down a little bit. Veyron has lost their tier 1 tower already off of that previous rotation, so nice aggression from Team iDavy in that dual lane, but I'd like to see that move somewhere else. More importantly, I'd love to see Dark get a little bit more farm. Sure, he's doing a ton of damage to the Hebo. He is, if it's a 1v1 against Gagowski and Gagowski's ultimate is down, Dark is winning that fight every day of the week. But he's 2 levels down. Obviously does have ultimate now, so if they fall into a 1v1 scenario, this should almost certainly go the way of the Hebo. So I'd just like to see Dark get some extra farm online, because only having 2 items up while Gagowski's going for a bit more of an expensive build on the Hebo, it's going to take him a little bit longer to get these items online. Dark's really just fallen far behind, and again, a lot of that is just because of how much focus that Team Seagyll has been putting in to stripping that farm away, to, more than anything, killing Dark 4 times so far this game.
How rough is this for Team Seagyll? Not too long ago, they won a massive fight in duo, but weren't quite able to get the Fury. So instead, Team iDavy walks up and is going to grab the Gold Fury. They're also going to lose out, yes, on the Bull Demon, but is that really a problem?
Oh,
it's only a problem if, oh my god, yeah, that happens. Holy, the damage from this Medusa. And the fadeaway shot, J-Mac. I mean, a couple of crits going your way, but the fadeaway shot under the tower, deep kill. Now you get the tier 1. You should be able to pick up this Pyromancer of your Team Seagyll. And suddenly that Gold Fury, while it is unfortunate, doesn't mean as much to your team because you're going to be up about 4,000 gold.
Pyromancer in response for Seagyll's squad will be at least a good answer back. You get to see a little bit of how much damage Medusa can already start hitting at this stage of the game with only 3 items up. But they are all 3 damage items. Don't let Blackthorn Hammer deceive you. That is a damage item. Yes, you get a massive influx of HP, but you're also getting a good amount of power. I believe it's 35 power to it right now, 350 health, 200 mana there. The passive not going to necessarily benefit you in the immediate boxing match, but it does allow you to kind of go astray from a normal build path because you're not as invested into cooldown or MP5. You almost should never run out of MP5 whenever you have Blackthorn Hammer, so it allows Medusa to stay around longer, make sure she can get an item online before she has to rotate over to a new fight. And you just see the immediate damage that Dutch is able to do. Those Viper shots, I'm just going to say it for anybody out there who plays Medusa and doesn't level that up second, level up those Viper shots. You saw the damage that it's already able to aim blue. So the immediate dodge you get from that plus Bluestone is such a threatening ability in any 1v1 boxing.
I really, now that you've pointed it out, not just the stat synergy, but even though part of the passive for Blackthorn is probably not going to be applicable pretty much at all, that CDR, like for a Medusa, like that's really, really good to have.
Very nice.
I'm starting to understand where this build is rooted in and what it's rooted in. And it turns out the guys picking it know what they're doing. They are, in fact, it is, in fact, a very solid god. I'm just going to keep my eye. I mean, 5-0-1, it's kind of hard to argue against as of right now. We'll see Davey and crew try to do so. Dharmic Pillars get dropped. There's going to be the Shibalanke ult to cut off the lights. Other side around. They force Veyron into the sky, fall back, chase down from Dark. Dark should get this and does, and it will be a dual lane collapse for Team Seagyll and a great rotation from Davey and their jungler.
Honestly, a perfect bait by Davey and Ragna there, just to keep them in the lane as long as possible, and then they give Veyron that small ounce of hope and safety. Say, okay, Veyron, you've got an ultimate. You can just fly out of here. You fight him a little closer to that purple buff wall, and you can escape, no problem. What they didn't tell them was that Dark is sitting in the jungle, and Dark is literally sitting inside of the wall of the purple buff, just waiting for Veyron to land. Does exactly that. Picks up 1 kill there, and then La Revolucion has no one there as backup, and so it's a 2nd kill for iDavy's team. The team that's been down about 3,000-4,000 gold for the last few minutes of this game are finding those small picks. Are those picks netting them a ton of gold and XP back? No, but it's helping them keep alive, and maybe the most important is keeping Ragna ahead on the Shibalanke. 2-1-2 might not be the craziest of slash lines, but when your team is down 4,000 gold and you have a carry who is escalating their and expressing their path forward into the late game, and probably has a decent bit of damage already to his name. I think it's 9,000 damage is what it takes to get all 6 stacks of that Shibalanke passive. So just another 300 damage, and you're going to have free 30 power now for this Shibalanke.
It's not going to be too hard to get that either.
No.
Really, and now that you've mentioned it, it was 1.5 levels, close to 2. It depends on this next wave, it looks like, for Ragna. But because of that, you look at supports are pretty even. I think Dark actually just technically has a small lead. You're really only finding your deficit in solo, which you're tanky and you're Odin. You don't need to be ahead. Your job is to go be an ult bot for a little while. And so a lot of it really does land in mid, and it's a 5-0-1 Medusa that you're up against. Always going to have a pretty good standing. Also now, over that 9,000 mark, over the 10,000 mark, and then waiting as Davey finds the kill. And now the true engage from Davey and crew. They're chasing down the Hebo, trying to find the pressure, but you need to go where your carries are. Instead, lockdown, Medusa, trapped in the cage. You've got the damage. You just need a few more autos. You got to keep this Xbalanque swinging as best as he can. It's separated. The crits are ringing true, but the damage is looking a little bit better for the front line this time around. Double kill for the Odin. Who is calling him an ult bot this time around? He's showing up to make sure every single thing goes right this fight, and so far it has. Everyone escapes on team iDavy, and they get 3 kills.
Gagazi forced to ult so early in that team fight, man. He was just lacking the damage that he needed to really jump back into any one of these team fights. And the while Ragna sitting there just pumping damage to those autos into the back line of anybody who walks forward. Revolucion, Dutcher, they get picked off. And just more than anything, great zoning with the ultimates by both Yor and Davey. Davey goes into lurking in the waters, forces Gagaski to the side of the fight. That allows Davey time to rotate down into the path and then join the Odin, who had used his ultimate, that cage, on the left side of the team fight. Then put Seagyll in an awkward position because he's got to fight around the outside of the cage as opposed to being able to fight into the immediate team fight. And just overall, iDavy's team does a great job of separating that team fight and finding those small picks that they need in order to take down Team Seagyll in that one. And again, they're doing this from a deficit. It doesn't look like it much anymore because that 4,000 gold lead has now closed up to only 1K. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is a dead even game going 20 minutes in, where a single Pyromancer, a tier 1 tower, is really all that separates the difference between these two squads. What I'd love to see Team Seagyll do a bit more in these fights is not have Gagaski so far up on this Hebo. Yes, you do an insane amount of damage on this god in, I'll say, about 5 or so minutes is where your damage number really starts ramping up. But you got Gagaski, you got Dutcher, such great team fight ultimates, lots of damage, but they're not able to fight together or with the team. They're having to use these resources, these ultimates, so early in the fight that you can't use it on one of the carries or on one of these frontliners who are half HP just walking down your back line.
Well, that 4,000 gold lead has been whittled down by iDavy, and now the kill lead as well whittled down. You get a pluck in mid, immediate damage onto the Ganesh, looking for the closeout. You've got Ragna coming in from the sideline, forcing out the Medusa. Dutcher can't do anything about it now. You've got the 5-stack running them down, looking for anyone they can catch out. Lockdown, just enough, and the knockup saves lives here if you're the Hebo. But it can only save so many. Silence might be massive if anyone wants to step up, but you can't really afford it. Health bars are low, tower dive is there, and the front line is gone. iDavy once again coming out on top here in mid.
And a lot of this fight is coming off the back of Aim Blue and Yor. Yor starts off that fight with the Odin on a cage that immediately gets a Phantom Shell, forces a Hebo ultimate away immediately. Dutcher's forced to dash out and then throw a 180 ultimate that does hit 3 people, but it doesn't stun anybody. And because he's so far away, can't hit onto any of the more impactful players of that one. And then all the while, Dark is waiting in the wings inside of one of the walls just for anyone to step forward because he's got plenty of damage. Davy's zoning.
Davy's a paid actor.
Dutcher does have ultimate. This is not a free fire giant. Oh, it steals it!
Seagyll, take it away. Now you got to get out of here, though. That's going to be the hard part. They at least get 1 kill, maybe 1 more if you can chase it down. Dash forward, 1 more kill, 1 more auto. The Aegis saves your life for a little bit longer, but Dutcher able to pick up yet another. Takes out the duo lane, loses 3, but it's the fire giant for no one as it goes down 22 minutes into this game.
Isn't it crazy how a fire giant got stolen and not a single member has it? Not 15 seconds later, Seagyll, he's going to walk down 3. I don't know if he can win this fight. Well, no, never mind. He's got Revolution. The tanks just win the day for him.
Blown away. The front line that collapsed a minute ago comes back and is maybe the saving grace. I mean, what a bloodbath. What a wild back and forth. And J-Mac, technically, Team Seagyll ends up a little bit ahead. They've got a little more gold. They were already ahead in gold. It's a small lead, but a lead nonetheless, and that's something to hang your hat on.
to see what Team Seagyll can do now, because having stolen the Fire Giant, that's fantastic for them. They end up killing just about everybody on Team iDavy after, so it's not like if iDavy's team gets fire, then the fight is won immediately after. I mean, that was a moment, and we've been critical on iDavy for his zoning in the past, and I think that was a perfect example of you're trying a little too much and a little too far to go for a zone. Against the Medusa, Sobek is not going to have a fun time. If you can land a pluck and throw him away, sure, that's great. But when you get caught in a situation like that, just easy CC application for Dutcher, dash in, that's a route, sets up for Veyron, could set up for La Revolucion. There's just a great CC chain, but more than anything, no one's paying attention to Gagovsky on the Hebo. Once Davey dies in the 1v1 half HP to Dutcher, Dutcher's ultimate has good range. He doesn't need to step inside that Fire Giant pit to try and steal it away. And you can't block a Medusa ult unless you have a wall. That's the only way you're blocking Medusa ult. And Odin Cage ain't going to block that one. So, as soon as iDavy goes down, it just makes it that much easier for Dutcher, mid laner of Seagyll, not only to be 9-2-1, by the way, on the Medusa, just to walk up and take that objective.
Yeah, your duo lane, if your Team Seagyll, is 0-8, which is not a great look. But when your solo and mid combined are 13-3, suddenly it's a really good look for your team to have. You're pushing left side Phoenix. Lights are turned off, does not matter. The structure is not moving around or wiggling. It will be an easy pickup for Team Seagyll. Plus they got that Fury, plus all this gold, technically in a power play moment, although they don't have the Fire Giant around their belt. And JMac, what was a 2,000 gold lead, balloons out of control into 7,000 25 minutes into this game. Fire Giant's going to come up in another 2.5. It's going to create an interesting opportunity. iDavy and Squad, and I'm going to call it as I see it, the two tanks did not seem super tanky under the eyes of Team Seagyll.
No. Another important thing is that Dutcher did pull beads from Ragna while blinded by the ultimate. Literally couldn't even see him, just threw out the ultimate saying, he's probably somewhere around here. Hits Ragna, stuns him, gets beads because of that, and so now Ragna is down for 85 more seconds without that safety. If I'm Team Seagyll, I'm grouping up. I'm rushing right down that mid lane. That's a weak tier 2 tower there. You can even rush down right lane if you want to, because you know that Ragna can't step far enough forward to help on any kind of a meaningful or immediate defense at this point. So, I'd love to see Team Seagyll just group themselves up right now, but they're taking their time. Fire Giant's still down for about a minute now before it respawns back onto the map. It doesn't seem like Team Seagyll are going to take that advantage, try and push forward there. This is a very proc-heavy build for Dutcher right now. Did finish up the Redstone, goes into Crusher and Heartseeker, last 2 items. Has the full CDR, has an immense amount of pen online as well. That's why the tanks don't seem tanky, is that you're sitting at 40% CDR to spam all of your abilities. You have pen in the build. By way of having Fail Not Crusher and Heartseeker, and you're also just going to be a little bit tankier and attack a little bit faster for Dutcher because you've opted towards that Redstone, and every single one of your abilities is proccing that Redstone, so you just have such easy way of keeping that stacked up. It's going to be so difficult to catch out this Medusa.
Now in a good spot. Man, the other thing, and J-Mac, this is me latching onto things that I like about Medusa, but because I play support all the time, I just don't get to experience as often as I would like. Her passive feels so good when you're auto-trading, and it's so much more frustrating when you're playing, I guess in this case, if you're playing against it like Ragnar, because you have to predict, you can't predict the movement you expect. You have to predict her movement, and it's going to be a little different without that full penalty, movement speed penalty. Now, Fire Giant was started as a bait for Team Seagyll, trying to pull iDavy and Squad in. They take the bite a little bit, come in, a little bit of poke both ways. Doesn't result in any deaths or major fights. Fire Giant, full health, 2.5 minutes from being enhanced. So depending on how long this dance goes, it could be a very, very crucial fight that we are about to see. And with Team Seagyll backing up, and the 28-minute mark approaching quickly, J-Mac, something tells me we might be waiting for an enhanced Fire Giant.
Yeah, I wouldn't pull Fire Giant if I'm these two teams right now. Primal Fury's about to respawn back in as well, so It's a pretty easy objective. You just send Dutcher and Veyron over that way, but if you put both of your carries on that side of the map, then as soon as it goes down, Team iDavy can just pull a fire, and it's going to be a while before Jingwei or Medusa can get back. Even if Jingwei goes back to base and flies in with her passive, only been landing around that speed buff, red buff area, so it's still going to take a little bit of time. So you're looking at a good 10 seconds to traverse that direction. Medusa would be a little bit late, so wouldn't be surprised if we just see this long-winded tango here around the Fire Giant for an extended period of time. You're always going to be able to clear out some minions on the other side, try and deal with those fire minions. So for most of this, Team Seagyll is going to have the man advantage, but right there is the benefit of playing an Agni. Just free range poke. I mean, that was half of Gagowski's health with just one combo. So it's going to take a little bit for iDavy to fight back in there. Phoenix is back up, so this is the last fire wave, and so York can now full focus on rejoining the team on this right side.
We'll be able to back and have teleport, but well, having a number disadvantage doesn't mean as much now.
So Hebo.
Dark is just gone, and yeah, I think like you said, just Hebo. And again, your duo lane, admittedly the assists have been crawling up. 13 out of 15 assists on the duo lane combined. So being able to set up properly, what are you going to do for the defense here? Tier 2 seems like it might fall down. Gagowski, no ult. Has the damage, has the tower now. But the leap away from the Odin, make sure that that damage doesn't really stick or find anything. Fire Giant goes down. Seagyll, get it. Just shy of being enhanced. You're unable to get the tier 2, and Gagowski stays around a little longer to make sure that it stays safe. Davy put down to the ground just as Dark respawns, means a perpetual rolling numbers advantage for Team Seagyll as they start their onslaught tier 2 and right. Tier 1 and mid is, tier 2 and mid is just a sniff away from falling down. JMac, they're going to have a lot of gold in hand as well to spend.
Some Raven wards as well for Team Seagyll. There was 4 of them in pocket for a moment there, so just trying to see if anybody's maybe sneaking around the jungle, if they can go for a safe push up towards mid lane. As good as Raven ward is, I'm a huge proponent of the proximity ward. I think that item is criminally under-purchased when it comes down to the 2 of them. Being able to just drop a ward in the middle of the team fight and be able to get that slow effect onto the enemy is just so potent for a team fight, for any kind of chase as well. But for now, Team Seagyll will go ahead and just take the Primal Fury, make their next attempt at a Fire Giant, if they need to go for another attempt after that one. Just that much easier for themselves. But taking that Fire Giant, I believe, just before the timer moves over to Enhanced Window, so not quite going to have that same level of strength as if they would have, if they could have just waited a few extra seconds to get to that enhanced state. But Team Seagyll still does have decent siege, having double Hunter, even if one of them is building more ability style for the Medusa. It's going to be a really easy siege for them. They've also got a pretty good gold advantage, so that gold at this point doesn't mean nearly as much. It's only the supports that really have any kind of difference in their build. In fact, La Revolucion going for a Staff of Mirrodin in their build. Not the biggest fan of that for Ganesh if you're not building a lot of extra damage, but never a bad thing just to be able to hit a little bit harder. Have that pen, have that CDR, will make that ultimate first hit do a little bit more damage and the subsequent hits after. Would have maybe just liked to have seen a Spear of Desolation instead, get those resets, get that immediate cooldown, but I'm not going to question the support that's currently up nearly 12, 13,000 up against the enemy team.
Yeah, you've got, control just sitting in your lap right now. Left side Phoenix, all 3 birds still up for iDavy, 3 tier 2s still up for Team Seagyll. It's all about the pressure they can apply here. 1 runic bomb in pocket for either team. The more applicable one right now, sitting in Seagull's grasp, I guess is the only term I can think of, and uses it on mid. Massive damage over there. Allows the team to get aggressive on left.
Great
Odin walls come up and block some of those shots. Keep the tower alive a little longer. And that Phoenix, both of them looking a little worse for wear.
Do have the bracer down. So a nice little extra boost of damage for Team Seagyll when they reinitiate that fight. Also have a great out if they fall a little bit too low in health. The fight's kicking back off again.
Damage. Oh my god, before Davey can even react, deleted. Seagyll, though, follows shortly thereafter Gagowski into the back line. Lots of damage, lots to be done, and the cavalry there to come save him. 3 for 2 trade. You still got your Jingwei, though, pumping out the damage from the back line for Gone Dark. Has to do everything in his power to save this Titan,
silence.
but you just don't have the damage or the time, and game 1 goes over to Team Seagyll.
And that silence from La Revolution may have actually saved Team Seagyll to being able to end that game, because Dark's damage is high right now on this clean it, and if that claw swipe damage lands onto one of those backliners, that Jingwei's dying, and then now it then would have to fall onto the back of the mid laner to be able to kind of pump that damage out there. So great little silence at the very end, but I think you put it best. At that point of the game, when Gagowski is able to just leisurely stroll into your backline to get to the back of the Phoenix and then is wrapping around back through, you're at a dangerous point in the game to where you either have to focus all your attention to kill that Hebo, or he's just going to completely wreak havoc in the backline. I mean, we saw the attempted 1v1 after where, see the clean a dash over towards the Hebo, and what does Gagowski do? He turns around and with his dying breath throws out a nice little 1,000 damage water cannon right into his dome.
Well, that is just game 1 and a little sprinkling of the taste of what we have for tomorrow in the best of 5 between these two teams. But to figure out, will Seagyll be able to confirm first seed? Will iDavy push back and give us a game 3? The only way to see is right after this quick break.
Rated T for teen.
Enough talk. Let's fight. Open the gates.
Smash you like a pancake.
Murder and seduce. That's what I do best.
Apocalypse awaken. Onward to victory.
That's right. Go to SMITE2.com. Become a founder today. There are 3 tiers. You can unlock all sorts of things, as well as if you've missed out on the last 2 alpha weekends, you'd get access to things like that early on in the game. Cacodemon Ymir, the Night Stalker Neath, J-Max playing with cards. That has nothing to do with the thing I'm about to say, which is the Fallen Zeus skin, Tier 5, as well as in-game titles, Ascension passes, all sorts of stuff that you're going to get, as well as you saw in the ad, all Smite 2 gods forever. That is, and last I checked, forever's a real long time.
It's at least 10 years.
It's at least 10 years. Think about it, and I say this every time this comes up. In the year 2012, I started playing Smite. In like February, I think, 2013, maybe it was earlier, maybe it was a little later. I could probably look it up on my own account. I bought the God Pack. There were 20-something gods in the game. I've not bought a single god since that moment. I spent $30 11 years ago after playing for like 4 months, and then have had just a vast cornucopia of gods to go to since then, because now there's JMac 130 in the game. So get in on it now. It's so free. It's so smart. It's not actually free. You have to spend money, but it is a free decision to go spend that money and go to smite2.com and become a founder today. What else is a free decision?
We would love for you to pick up Smite 2.
Thanks, J-Mac. Let's look at something. Get this guy off my screen, bro. I don't even care what it is. Post-game stats. Yeah, that'll be pretty helpful. 10, 2, and 5. It is not the best slash line today that we have seen. But I'm pretty hard-pressed to think of any other than that one Vulcan game that stand above and beyond it. Just absolute beautiful Medusa game. You've got great surrounding players and a great supporting cast in that case. 0-5, 14 in terms of the assists there for La Revolution, and just a very heavy presence. And while you got some really good fight back from Team iDavy, it is not quite enough to get the win that game. So now J-Mac, looking at what they did, which admittedly was actually pretty good on both squads, it really just was one fight goes wrong for iDavy and crew, and that really opened up a massive, like that Fire Giant steal, right, is what opens up so much for Team Seagyll. They get a left side Phoenix off of that. They get Gold Fury. I mean, they went from a 2,000 gold game separating them with nobody having Fire Giant to a 7,000 gold lead after that. It feels like those are the moments where you can't really, like, you can't say, man, our draft was bad, or I didn't like this pick. Like, yes, the Medusa was maybe a little egregious, but realistically, it's just the play.
The problem that iDavy's team ran into, yes, getting the Fire Giant stolen was definitely one of the bigger problems, especially after they had just gotten the momentum to start fighting back against Team Seagyll. But the big problem is that iDavy's team hit the point of the game where they can no longer solo the Hebo. And I think that's a very important takeaway from this, is that up until like level 15, 16, Dark was able to take almost any 1v1 against that Hebo at any given point in the time, even if they were sitting at full HP, just because Clean is going to do more damage than the Hebo immediately in that burst. Once that level 20 hits, once your 5th, 6th item starts coming online for Hebo, you are soloing any assassin in the game, essentially, especially if they're not building any kind of defense to their name. You are going to 1v1 every single one of them. And because he hit that stage of the game, if you're not allocating resources to killing this Hebo as a group effort, you're not going to win that fight, and you're probably not going to win the team fight after.
Well, the question of what gets through And who goes where will be answered. Team iDavy takes first pick overall, and first pick lately has mainly been the Medusa. So will they go for it? Will they get Davy's Ares? All of these questions and more on the next episode of SMITE, which just happens to be airing right now.
Yeah, right now in picks bands for Game 2. Team Seagyll up 1. Team iDavy has been a force to be reckoned with through all stages of this SCCC. I mean, whether that be in the qualifier stage, the early group stage that they were in, and then now here even in this one. So Team iDavy has the potential to bounce back against Team Seagyll. This is not to say that one win for Seagyll has now completely notched the win column for them, because we saw it happen earlier. iDavy's team goes down 1-0 against another, has 2 good bounce-back games, and is able to win out the set. But we need to see maybe a bit more from iDavy's team, and maybe more specifically some very targeted bans towards Seagyll. I think this Medusa is a great one because of how flexible of a pick it is. When you take away something like Charybdis or Jingwei, you know where those guys are going. Unless like Baronika's on a team, you know where Charybdis is going 99 out of 100 games. They're going over to that duo lane. The Medusa has enough flexibility to play in that mid role, in that duo role, and I'd argue, and maybe I can die on this hill alone, I think that Medusa has some jungle potential. Probably not the best out there, but I think that there is some potential out there. So 2 actual roles, 1 role that I like to run it in there. I don't know if anybody else stands with me on that one.
There's got to be one other Smite gamer that does Medusa jungle.
Got to be one, but
if you're in chat, raise your hand.
Yeah, put like a little handy mode that just like, hi, you're raising your hand, or just say like, hey, that's me. I'm that kind of a person. What hand you got there? You got a Jack of Clubs facing up. What do you got hidden under there, Gormizer? Like they're just doing picks. They're just doing bans right now. Are you hitting or are you staying?
Oh, I'm staying.
Oh, that's a 21 there.
21. Yeah, that's the one with the Ace of Spades.
Oh, okay, I was wondering where the Ace of Spades landed. I figured it was under one of the face cards. Or under that 9.
For those of you who are real curious about why we keep playing with cards in the poker chips, and if I guess you didn't watch set 2, yeah, we're going to Vegas for Smite 2.
Ooh.
And it's gonna be a blast.
HyperX
really
Arena, Las Vegas.
And it's gonna be a real good time. What these teams are playing for right now, though, is not Vegas. This is for charity. 10 out of 10. We like charity. That's all you need to know. And this is what you need to know. Sobek and Maman Brigitte moved? Locked in fact, as it turns out. And again, these are 2 picks that when I see Dark on this god, it's been good. It's just been real kind to him. And you were talking about Charybdis. I feel like you manifested this.
I mean, Team Seagyll was playing it in the set before. Veyron really liked to go towards that god. It's got great boxing potential. May not have the best kill potential early in the game, but once you get an item or 2 online, Charybdis really can box into opponents pretty easily because you can kind of alter your build path compared to other hunters. We've been seeing a lot of Devours into usually Executioners, kind of the next item up there. Sometimes we've been seeing how the Shibalanques, they've been going towards like Griffin Wing. Charybdis doesn't need to immediately dedicate into a second tier 3 right away. We've been seeing a lot of what Veyron has been doing has been Devour's Gauntlets into tier 2 of the Odysseus bow, get that charge bow online, and then just leave it there for some time, and then build the Executioner, then the Kin size after, and eventually finish at that item, because the charge bow will allow the Charybdis to very quickly and very easily clear out that lane, because one full 3 auto chain of Charybdis technically will proc that bow every single time, because it's auto, and then you just need 2 of the 3 mini autos to then proc it. So as every single rotation of your autos, you're getting those guaranteed procs on it essentially. So it just makes it where she can clear so easily. It clears up the jungle camp so quickly as well. So this has just been a good pick, and I think maybe one of the top hunters in the game right now.
We'll have to see how well it performs in game, although after last game, I'm feeling pretty confident in it, and I think that is... I don't know if I want to call it an understatement. I'll call it just a statement. It is. I'm feeling confident. It is a statement. Bologna gets locked in. Not a pick that we get to see too often, but one that today has been reigning supreme, right? I mean, silences, especially when you're talking about Charybdis and Osiris, 2 auto attackers who have been doing really well. That disarm becomes a very, very massive part of her kit all of a sudden. And now it's going to be about the control. You've got your soul laners, we've got junglers, got Ace support, and you can see that reflected in bans. Kuzenbo, as well as the Ganesh banned on one side, Shibalanque, as well as the Baba Yaga getting banned on the other side. And so kind of hedging your bets here if you're Team Seagyll. Who knows where Team iDavy's going to go? Maybe you.
I think you just go back to the Agni if you're Team iDavy.
Blue has been loving that Agni.
I mean, you do have the Momon, so putting double magical out of your mid and jungle, maybe not the best investment. Momon's going to take a little bit of time to kind of ramp up as well, similar to Agni, though Agni I think is going to get there a little bit faster. Wouldn't hate the idea of it, especially considering it is left open, but this could also be Team iDavy trying to flex that pick and say, hey, this Momon could go to jungle, or it could go to Blue in the mid lane. I think probably right now Momon better in the jungle than she is in the lane, and maybe wanting to kind of see what the matchup they're up against in is mid. Now seeing that it is going to be a Tiamat, I think you can safely lock in an Agni just knowing that you're going to have that range, you're going to have that utility and safety to stay alive there, but could even go towards something like the Thoth if you want a little bit more range as well.
Don't hate
They
me
actually
because
locked it
I'm
in. Okay, Aphrodite.
Just be mad that
Tiamat,
you're not.
I was going to make a joke because yesterday, and this is your sign to watch whatever it ends up getting called, J Macparty from yesterday, where you can learn the names of Tiamat stuff. And I was going to try to flex that I know their names now totally, and I definitely remember them from literally yesterday.
He aced them on the Jeopardy, on the trivia show. Like, he aced it. You'll have to go back and watch. Like, it was really impressive.
It was crazy because, I normally do the Jeopardy, so, like, obviously I knew all the answers. I felt kind of bad for the other guys, but
he kind of washed everybody. Made them look silly.
Afro support in this day and age when it's not Polar Bear Mike playing it is something I'm not used to seeing, and maybe not something that I would be as willing to hedge my bets on. But Team Seagyll looked pretty good last time. It's definitely going to have some troubles though.
Yeah, Afro support is okay. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to say it's great. I'm gonna fence sit on this one and say that Afro support is good, but I think it's very heavily dependent on the team comp that you build around it, because Afro is not your traditional CC tank support. Yes, she has a ranged stun, but that can be body blocked by any person on that team or by one of your teammates for accidentally walking in front of it and now absorbing the kiss instead of the stun actually going through. And she has a knockback / slow depending on which side of the back off you're getting hit by, whether it be attached to your ally or attached to the Aphrodite's end of that one. And because of that, she's more often not wanting to either stick to the one diver on the team or stick to the backline and keep the carry alive. And I think it's very dependent on the composition that is built around the Afro. Serket and Osiris are going to be able to dive no problem with each other. You can stick the Aphrodite to the Serket and have a little bit of success there by keeping them alive. But I'm, in this instance, wanting to keep Charybdis alive. I think that Veron is going to be the strongest player come late game on this team, and you want to make sure to keep them alive and make sure that the immense amount of safety that a Charybdis already has is further amplified by having an Aphrodite. Sure, you've got your Whirlpool form. You've got your Maw as well with the ultimate. But now just go ahead and throw an Undying Love, and now you have an actual Aegis and Beads built into that on top of the already Aegis and Beads that you have with the Whirlpool, on top of the beads that you have built in with the Maw. It is going to be such an annoying dual lane to gank that if I'm this Maman Brigitte, I am probably ganking one time pre-level 5, and then I am never touching that lane again. This is essentially a lane where I have forfeited all rights over to Team Seagyll, and that's dangerous because Aphrodite, if you give her time to scale up, becomes difficult to kill. Whoever she attaches to becomes difficult to kill. So I think that is an unfortunate ticking time bomb that Team Seagyll have, in that if Aphrodite and Charybdis are left time to be able to ramp up to the late game, it's going to be difficult for iDavy's team to kill them. They have inherent anti-heal with the Sobek, with that Sickening Strike, but there's going to need to be some extra anti-heal built in. Things like Divine Ruin, very easy to apply. Contagions, if you want to go that direction. Pestilences, Brawlers, Beat Sticks, whatever it may be, or upgrading that Executioner Glyph just a little bit earlier. You want to have answers to the Aphrodite right away because her CC is very limited in the area around her into single target, essentially. So you want to try and be able to dive some of the other people that she can't attach to immediately.
I do, and this is something I feel like we've shouted it out in the past weeks, but deserves a shout out this time around, which is just a reminder that these players are streaming as well, right?
Yep.
If you're like, man, I just really am curious, like, what are Seagyll's comms like? What are the presence of iDavy's team? The good news is that Seagyll, this is the problem, is when it comes down to it, the names are different. So I'll spell them out for you here as we jump into game number 2. Again, if you win and you are Team Seagyll, well, I've got great news. You are going to go to the finals as the first seed. If you lose, then it's still TBD based on that. Seagyll, by the way, for those curious, stream Seagyll. So that is three. Yeah, 3 L's at the very end, as opposed to the 2 L's that are in game.
And has delivered 3 L's to their opponents so far today.
I like that. That's actually, if you're trying to remember, that's a good way to remember. And then, of course, there's iDavy, which is iDavy, and let's see.
I think it's a double underscore.
Double underscore. And this is the reason that I decided to start spelling them out, because Ragna is also streaming.
Ooh,
which I just found out. However, Ragna is /Ragna, Ragna, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 underscores.
Ragna, why do you have 7 underscores in your name?
So, I'll be real.
What?
That one might be easier to just click on the SMITE directory and go find.
Why do you have Scream having 5 M's is fine, because it's like adding more M's, you can emphasize that you're screaming a lot more, or the 5 M's, 5 kills, legendary call at that point. But why do you have 7 underscores? There are people who don't even like 1 underscore. I'm me.
That's me.
It's me. I don't like having the underscore at the beginning of my @ right there, but I can't get that. Thank you so much for that, Twitter/X. Anyways, I divulge. Yes, go support these go to support the streamers who are out there, even if they may have a crazy amount of underscores in their name. The captains, and I want to emphasize this part as to why we're kind of pushing this out towards them, as well as making sure to watch us as well, is that all of the captains, both for EMEA and North America, the teams that have made it to this qualifier stage, all have exclusive drops on this weekend from today until Monday morning. So tune into their streams today, tune into their streams tomorrow, and then for next weekend as well for the NA LAN qualifiers, all of the North American captains and the EMEA captain who qualifies will also all have drops on at that time. So you'll get special drops going that direction. And this is a little bit of an extra spoiler. We haven't told no one yet. We might be having something really cool coming way down the road when we get to that LAN stage. So you really want to tune in during that point.
You mean the LAN in July, where the top 4 teams are getting invited to play here at the esports headquarters in Georgia?
That is correct.
Where they also get access to, or a tour of Titan Forge Studios, as well as access to SMITE 2 development?
That would be the same one.
The same one where, depending on their seating, they will get various donations to charity in their name?
That same one, and
oh my!
The same one, it's gonna get additional loot and goodies too.
God. It could be these poker chips.
Why don't we just hand all of them 1 card?
Everybody gets 1. Come on, there's 52. What is that? 17? You just give them that.
They're just playing. Oh God, what
14? Math.
We just have every team, every player on the team draw 1 card, and whoever has the best 5-card draw hand wins the weekend. Like, that's just it. It's not a great idea, but it's an idea.
It is not a great idea, but it is an idea.
It is an idea that I have put out there in the world that nobody should do. What you should do is be careful in the mid lane if you're Dutcher and Krakovsky, and well, if you're also Dark and Aim Blue. My goodness, the damage output between these two this early in the game already starting to stack up.
Something that's going to be dangerous is dealing specifically with the Circuit, it feels like, as time goes on. See if they can keep it up. I'm also, admittedly, I'm like nervous for the Aphrodite and for those facing the Aphrodite. For the same reason, which is just that it comes down to she's not necessarily known for her survivability early on, right? That comes a little bit later once you get your ultimate and things like that. So how she does in the first few minutes is definitely going to be a pretty big version of what we can expect over that lane. You hit level 3, you haven't had to worry about a jungler just yet. If you hit 5 and you haven't had to worry about a jungler, then you can probably stop worrying about a jungler. And you had already mentioned it. For Dark specifically, it's not going to be an easy lane to come over and deal trouble to, because if you, even without the ultimate from the Aphrodite, you've got so much protection on the Charybdis.
Yeah, this might be the most difficult duo lane for probably any jungler, let alone a Mombergy. This is probably the toughest duo lane to gank right now, especially with the changes that came to Charybdis, where she gets that CC immunity immediately on using that Whirlpool form, so no longer Can you try and stun her out of it or interrupt it before she gets the opportunity to go through there? Sure, she isn't able to go as fast anymore. A lot of that inherent movement speed pulled away, and now it all comes from the amplified version of it. But that's still a multi-second CC and damage immune target that just gets to roam around for free, even if it's at just regular movement speed. Then you attach an Aphrodite to it. At that point, it is essentially impossible now to kill this dual lane if they are attached together. The only way this dual lane dies should be if they misplay. If they accidentally fat finger the Aphrodite ultimate before anything has actually happened, or there's like 4 or 5 people ganking this duo. In almost any 2v2 or even 2v3 scenario, Team Seagyll's duo should not be dying. Instead, it might be Davy.
Instead, it might be Davy, which has been, unfortunately for Davy, a common occurrence today. Seagyll, rotation over, Gagowski puts him in the ground, and Davy is the first blood of Game 2. And if you're talking about trying to take this to 3, you're talking about an, again, non-ideal start. Not a deal breaker just yet. We're already talking over 1,000 gold. And it could get a little further. Good stun from Seagyll in lane. Well, the health bars maybe play a different game and tell a different story than what we can expect over there in right.
Of all the assassins to have not decided to run Blackthorn on, this is the one that kind of questions a little bit for me. Gagowski on the Circuit seems to be building a bit more towards the glass cannon style of play, going for that Jotun's Wrath early. You get a lot more CDR, you get the power to pen. But I feel that Circuit would have been a good one to go the Blackthorn start. You get a lot of extra HP, you get similar levels of power, but it just nets you that extra little bit of safety whenever you're going for these dives. That extra 350 health when you dive a tier 1 tower this early in the game will save you for a couple of extra tower shots. So I'm a little surprised Gagowski didn't go for it this time, but I don't think Gagowski has been really worrying that much about the Blackthorn build at all. So maybe not wanting to go that direction. Instead, fight over Bull Demon's going bad for iDavy's team.
Now, not only do they lose the Bull Demon itself, they might lose a little more, and that is the Chase Dark put down, and 2 kills, one of them now being on the jungle. Good news for Dark. He gets to finish at tier 3. Bad news for Dark. The farm game is going to slow up a little bit here, and Circuit is already a little ahead. Davy playing aggressive, goes for the pluck onto the Aphrodite, but it might just cause more trouble for him than it's worth. Lurking in the waters. Can you get away? You're chasing him down. You want this Aphrodite. No safety mechanisms for the mage herself, but the juke shoes are there. Unfortunately, it is the minions and a little bit of extra damage that end up paying exactly what you need to get a first kill online for iDavy.
Stealing purple away from Veron as well. Great play by Ragnar. Risky one. Dashing in aggressively, but it steals the buff, stuns out the Charybdis, and keeps Veron from being able to go any further forward. So nice little steal. Keep that dual lane alive and running. So we've been seeing a lot of focus towards some of these dual lanes more than anything. And I think that this is a smart play by iDavy's team, is to get iDavy out of that dual lane as fast as possible. As soon as Davy gets a single item online, hits that level 5, whatever that bar may be, get Davy out of dual lane, because this is not a kill lane. This is not a lane where you're going to be killing Veron on cooldown or killing La Revolution. This is a I am here to soak up farm, and that is all that is going to happen here, because I do not foresee very many deaths happening against Team Seagyll. So I'd love to see just Davy rotate away. Force this Aphrodite to chase the Sobek around, as opposed to the other way around, where normally you see Sobek's chasing or normally you're seeing the Sobek's having to chase after Aphrodite's, be like, oh, the Aphro's already over here, I need to be there now. Get ahead of the ball and force La Revolution to get out of this lane and get away from this carry.
Watching where those Aphro stuns come from. That's the other half of this conversation we haven't had too much of. Admittedly, Sobek kind of falls into this category too, though, which is that you've got one really consistent form of CC that you're banking on, but then Sobek also has the knock-up, which is also a little more helpful, and we might get to see that here in a second, especially with Dark rotating in. This is going to be a bad spot for the Aphrodite to be in, forced to use the Undying Love.
Ooh.
The ult does not connect from the Charybdis. Now you've got Gagowski coming in a little bit late, plucked out, and now in danger. Too low, but still mobile, just not mobile enough. Luckily, Charybdis We had already mentioned it. Survivability is her middle name. Is able to walk out of there, but Team iDavy unhappy with the first few kills. Traded out. And pick up 2 more here. Get to walk away. Mostly evening this game out, although 500 gold still teetering in favor of Team Seagyll.
I don't know why seeing the Bologna get stunned as soon as she used Eagle's Rally was just so funny to me. It's one of those things where you're so used to the timing of Osiris Tether that, like, you can almost CC immune at any given opportunity. But seeing that it was just like a quarter second too early was just a little funny to me. But yeah, that fight in dual lane just goes awkwardly. Revolucion gets a nice stun, a nice little back off, but then makes this very awkward decision of, I'm going to keep running in front of iDavy to cut off his potential pluck path. But Davy was baiting the entire time, waiting for his jungler just to get a little bit closer. And then as soon as his jungler was within range, you saw Davy pull the immediate 180 flip turn, hits the Revolution, pokes him completely out of position, and now he's just getting poked out by Ragna, by Dark on the rotation as well. And then you have to use the ultimate just to immune a single stun more than anything, and there's still plenty of damage following up. Then you get this very awkward rotation in as well from Gagovski. He jumps into the middle of no man's land. Now you don't have an Aphrodite ultimate to bail you out. Now Charybdis has missed their ultimate as well. A rare miss there from Veyron on the Charybdis today, just completely splitting the uprights, not only on the push, but on the giant conal stun after. So just everything misinput more than anything on the opposite side of the map there in that dual lane. So it's going to be a little tougher for Team Seagyll now with iDavy's team getting a bit of a lead in that dual lane. It's going to be really nice for them.
Well, Davy, I like the way he plays the Sobek. Aggressive and looking, hunting, waiting, trying to pull somebody. Unfortunately, not able to get anybody just yet on the right side of the map. Like you said, being able to close the gap, making things a little more awkward. If you are most of Team Seagyll, you're now having to take a little more of a pause, a break, and try to figure out where and what you want to do over the next couple of minutes. Speaking of, in a couple minutes, we're going to have the beacon spawn in here on left where Davy's standing. Going to have maybe potential, depending on the fights, for a Fury. A lot of opportunities, a lot of options on the board. J-Max still looking a few more minutes before Pyro or Fire ever become part of the conversation. But with these teams, especially here in the mid-game, you know, you're not looking as much at the carries. I feel like we are watching these assassins see what they can do, these mages. Tiamat is dangerous because as Tiamat grows in this game, she tends to hit really, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it, I think, perfectly put on display by Paul back in the SPL time, where Paul is one of the safest mid laners in competitive history. It's very rare that you would find Paul having a negative slash line or anything more than like 1 or 2 deaths to his name. And he was perfect at being able to sit back, farm up on a god like Tiamat, and then go from having like 8k damage in the first 20 minutes of the game to having like 30, 40,000 damage by the time, you know, Enhanced Fire Giant is spawning in. So Tiamat, the perfect example of a god that does a whole lot of nothing and then all of a sudden does a whole lot of something immediately afterwards. So it's going to take a little bit of time for Dutcher once to get this Book of Thoth online as well as get some of these tablet stacks up. Very easy god to get those stacks on. Primordial Onslaught's on a decently low cooldown. Anytime you throw out one of your children now, or I should say whenever you throw out that Bull Child now, is able to get that quick stack, as opposed to before where you just had to rely on your immediate abilities and maybe the Typhoon afterwards, or that Tornado. So it is a little bit easier of a time for Tiamat to be able to get some of these stacks online. Book of Thoth not stacking the traditional way that it used to. The changes back, at least for this year, to make it apply via damage. Goes hand in hand when you want to stack with Tablet of Destinies, which wants you to deal damage to the enemy god as well.
A little more of a slow burn. This game. I said that last time around when we had 5 kills around the same minute mark, so I don't know. It seems just maybe par for the course. But there's the slow burn portion of it. Gold-wise, even. 2,300, though, experience. Like that's something that you're going to feel at this point in the game. A level in the jungle, a level for support, 2 levels there in the carry role, which is the big difference maker here for Team iDavy. Opening up that conversation and creating maybe potential for a fight. That beacon kind of comes and goes really, really fast, and not too much happens on the backside of it. Just what I was expecting maybe a little bit more of. Now we get La Revolution taking an awkward pathing towards mid, but J-Mac, I don't see anybody outside of Davey, who's always looking for a block, really opening themselves up to bad positioning, or in this case, trying to find that one play that's going to create the opportunity to just steamroll somebody.
And the plucks from Davey have been on point. Hitting the Afro, not ideal, just because at any point you can pop Undying Love, you're going to be fine. No worries there from the Afro, but the Afro is starting to get tanky enough to where a pluck isn't going to immediately warrant needing to use that ultimate. And enemy gods are also not doing enough damage at this stage to where, you know, if you don't Undying Love the pluck, you're going to get hit by something like a Spear of the Nine Winds and take 1,000 of your HP in an instant. But it is still something to be mindful of. Trying to get that ultimate out is very important for Team iDavy, because that is the defensive win con for Team Seagyll. Is if you can get a good Undying Love, you save your carry, your mid lane, your jungle, whoever it may be, and have a second wind in the fight, that is the bounce back for Team Seagyll in any fight. So making sure that Team iDavy can pull that single ultimate away is so important for the squad. And also not missing plucks.
Yeah. Missed the pluck there. Might still get out. That's actually insane to me. In fact, you lose Gagaski, which, J-Mac, coin flip, in that moment, you pause after Davey misses that pluck. I don't think I would have called Gagaski dying in that instance, especially not after immediately losing the Aphrodite and not turning any of these kills around. Charybdis comes in, tries to swing as hard as she can, but unable to pick it up. And Davey showing their teeth, showing that they're not down and out just yet.
This is a build for Dutcher that's going to be really strong once he comes online with the Tiamat. But right now at this stage of the game, fighting into double mage, this breastplate, it's not going to make sense immediately, because you're going to look at it and go, man, that's a breastplate. You're fighting into double magical. Why in the world even bother building this? It's because of the mana that you're going to get back instead. You're building it strictly for the mana, the CDR. That way you can get more power for your tablet, more power for your Book of Thoth, and just make those two damage items hit a little bit harder. But it's going to be a big struggle now, because the core three of iDavy that's going to run you down, support, mid, and jungle, are all magic focused. So that physical defense isn't going to be doing a whole lot for Dutcher at this stage of the game. Once Yor and Ragna start rotating over, it's going to be a little bit more impactful for him. But right now, this is a bit of the struggle bus moment for Dutcher and for Gagaski, who got plucked back by Davey. Tower is there, but Davey might be the one in trouble now. Hit by the last breath. Poison gets the pluck. I think he might just be at him. That's what I would say, but Seagyll was ready to clothesline him in the jungle.
Laying in wait and able to get the job done. Now, get a small reset. 16 minutes in, 5-3. Davey with the kill lead and the gold lead in their pockets. We're looking towards the Fury as the next maybe potential big team fight pointer. Although in a little over a minute, we should have that beacon back. Or just about a minute, I should say. So a couple of places left side of the map where you're going to have the focus, but it's dark right now, and Ragna, who step up to the Fury. And with La Revolution backing, nobody's going to be stepping forward. There's no wards here. That one goes into the pocket of iDavy easily. And J-Mac, nothing too much to worry about for him here. If you're on the other side, though, you've lost 2 Tier 1 towers. You've lost your objectives. You don't have the gold lead. You're not winning the fights. A lot more for Team Seagyll to work on and try and figure out over the next few minutes.
It's a strong early game for Team iDavy. Their late game gets a little bit better. Once you start getting some of that good ranged poke out of Aim Blue, it's maybe not Agni Ultimate Bomb levels of poke, but your cooldowns are going to be fairly low. You're going to just have good overall poke, and having that anti-heal is going to be able to deal with the Aphrodite from a decent range. Plus, we're already seeing the level of damage that Aim Blue has this early in the game by going for that Doom Orb and that Divine Rune, double flat pen, now into percent pen as well with the Staff of Mirrodin. And Staff of Mirrodin is going to make it so much more enticing for Aim Blue to start a team fight with that ultimate, or use your abilities, then drop your ultimate, and then by the time you're out of your ultimate, your abilities are going to be back off of cooldown already because of just how short the cooldown of Morgan Le Fay's abilities are at that point. So Team iDavy are on a good momentum and a good track towards the late game, and they have great gods to do so. You always just run into the issue, though, and we've been saying it. for almost a decade now when it comes to a god like Sobek is if you pluck someone and they have beads, you're probably going to die afterward. It becomes doubly difficult to do so when they have beads, and there's also an Aphrodite who can just pop her ultimate, and now they still have their beads for the next time you try and pluck.
Beacon. Control to iDavy, and it's not going to be contested pretty much at all. Tier 1 on right could take a little bit of damage. Right now it's mainly just boxing match between the two. Seagyll not coming out on top this time around, but it's going to be hanging on a little longer. J-Mac, we're starting to enter this portion of the game where it's really up to iDavy and crew to figure out where they want to go to push this lead. 5,000 gold, 20 minutes in. Very, very good lead to have. If you can't really manifest it into anything, though, then 5,000 gold, let's say 25 minutes in, less good. 5,000 gold, 30 minutes in, way less good. And so you really need to be able to pick things up. Still a good lead no matter where you are, but you need to be able to extend this a little further. And so I'm curious, and I want to ask you about the Fire Giant fight potentially, because that's the big game changer. Nobody has the quote-unquote superior secure. Burn is going to be part of the conversation, but maybe it's all around the fight that one of these teams will find that advantage. I'm just kind of curious. How do you see it going? I'll have to hold that thought. There's a blink in. Taunt, relatively good. Get some damage onto Dark, but it's going to be Dark with the numbers advantage. And they're throwing out a lot. Seagyll has to play it carefully and is just hightailing it to the Tier 2. Loses the Tier 1 in the process. It is a full-on skirmish here. Luckily, no one goes down for either side. And instead, it's going to be a little bit of a reset. Remove. Yeah, Gagowski, get on out of there. Then we can start looking at the Fire Giant fight.
Well, he got beads. That's the big thing for Gagowski. Didn't necessarily think that he had what it took to kill a Hachiman who was at full HP, but pulling beads away was the main goal for the Circuit there. So now has those beads, can jump in and do the full combo the very next time that it's available to them. Just have to be wary of iDavy on the Sobek. If he wasn't full HP, a nice little body block from Seagyll spells doom for Davy, and now it's going downhill for Davy's team.
You have to play it carefully here. Low health bars, and Dark cannot escape here. You get Seagyll.
Oh,
that's a massive turnaround, but the push, the CC, and the damage 4 in the blink of an eye, and Aim Blue just trying to stay alive long enough to make sure his team does not disappear. Dutcher was on the chase. Now you've got Gagowski, and they're going for the tower dive, but the taunt doesn't connect. Instead, they fall back. One shy of the Dia side, but 4 clean kills. And J-Mac, you can see the divot more in the experience, but on both the experience and the gold, at least pulling a little bit back. And now, with tower pushing more than likely on the horizon, a Pyromancer as well, and plenty of time to still work with, Team Seagyll is going to get some much-needed work done.
Dark just took too much damage before that fight ever even kicked off. Trying to push down that Tier 1 tower, I think, was the right call, but Dark ended up taking like 3, almost 4 tower shots before the fight even kicked off, so sitting at half HP. Still goes for the continued dive, used the ultimate to try and kill Seagyll, but Seagyll had beads and was able to immediately cleanse away before that knockup ever even took place at that point. So then all of the damage initiation for Dark is essentially down at that point. Then you see the reinitiation later where Gagowski is able to go in, pull the beads away from Ragna. And now that your carry doesn't have CC immunity outside of his ultimate, it's a much, much easier dive for Team Seagyll and a much more coordinated dive at that. You saw that Davy tried to go in, gets a little too far forward, doesn't have enough HP. He says, all right, well, I'm going to get out. Well, what does Seagyll do? He's sitting in between the fight. He's sitting between Team Seagyll and Team iDavy and just saying, okay, I'm just going to wait for this Sobek to go for the pluck, and either I'm going to stop the pluck or I'm going to catch him out in his place. Ends up stopping the pluck, and then Veyron just throws out 2 stray autos, ends up getting the kill there. So great positioning by Seagyll in the fight, and just good patience from Team Seagyll all throughout that fight to bait iDavy's team a little further forward, have Dark take too many tower shots over on that right-hand side, and just slowly start whittling away at the resources of Team iDavy.
Fury going the way of iDavy means that lead is maintained as we start a dance pseudo around the Fire Giant here. 22.5 in. You can see rotations, all 5 of both squads dancing around the pit. Vision in favor of Team Seagyll at a quick glance. Davy forced to use his dash evasively. And J-Mac, this is where, again, it gets a little awkward because you have Dark maybe for some engage, right? You have a knock-up. Seagyll, who can engage. Gagowski, who could engage. But nobody who's clear the support, right? You look at it, Davy, if he hits a pluck, thumbs up. If he has to use his pluck defensively, thumbs down. Dark, in this case, is now on the other side of the map, split pushing, tier 2, should be able to get this no problem. But if that is a sign for anything, it's either a sign for this Tiamat to get aggressive and cause some trouble, which will be the case, or for the rest of the team to try and step up to the Fire Giant. Which instead, they're going to go for the beacon, try to find some of the smaller controls before they go for anything too big. Davy has to be careful not to get caught out.
That was close.
And that's the dangerous game that they're playing, right? If the Sobek has to use his pluck exclusively for disengage, we might be having a different conversation in a couple of minutes about who's in charge of this game.
Team iDavy had a really good momentum going, but that last little team fight seems to have shook them just a little bit, so playing a bit more passively, aside from Davy, who's still willing to walk up 1v3 as a Sobek. Not ideal at this portion of the game whenever you have a Circuit who's got a good bit of damage, also a Deathbringer in tow, or I should say already built for Gagowski, so those Deathbane's going to be doing just a little bit more surprise burst damage if you manage to get caught inside of one of those ones. It's aggressive positioning for the Fire Giant. I like the call, but the dual lane's already here for Team Seagyll. Doing this in the face of Team Seagyll is risky for Davy.
Yeah, it's going to be a 50-50 now as they go in. Davy does get the Fire Giant, but they need to get a little more afterward. You've got the numbers, not necessarily in your favor. Split fights. Charybdis down into the Whirlpool form. Seagyll surrounded by 5. Might not make it out of this one alive. No Undying Love, no leap to get away, and Seagyll will go down with Fire Giant going over to Davy. That's a massive amount of control and a massive swing to put them back, not only on top, but really in charge of this game.
Yeah, bold play paid off for Team Davy. Seagyll a little unaware that this was going to happen. By the time they even step up to the Fire Giant pit, it's already down to half HP, and then by the time anybody relevant enough to do damage gets to it, it's essentially dead at that point. So a wise call and a risky play by iDavy really works out well. 30 seconds now till Seagyll is back up. But this is the problem that iDavy's team has, is trying to walk up to a Tiamat more than anything for this level of wave clear. Tiamat not the best at defending bases, but you throw out that Tornado from your ultimate, you throw out a Primordial Onslaught, maybe a Ruination, just toss out a little bit of damage and you can usually clear that lane pretty safely. So a bit tough for iDavy's squad to really be able to siege into the Tiamat right now. It's going to get a little bit easier. If you can bait out that Tornado, pull it away from the minions, they've lost a lot of their clear there. You can stand in front of Primordial Onslaught if you really want to. Don't recommend it at this stage of the game. That's Soul Reaver, Tablet of Destinies online for Dutcher, so already going to be hitting pretty hard at that point. A lot of extra damage procs hitting in there, so Team iDavy probably just want to play this one a bit patient. Go for these tier 2 towers. Don't try and rush for a Phoenix at any point right now. If there's enough of a pushback on that left side Phoenix, I would sit back for iDavy. Just back away, head over to the full opposite end of the map there. Go to the right side of the map. Push down that tier 2 tower. Clear out the objectives. Primal Fury is a nice one. Maybe could have waited on grabbing that one, but the sooner you pick it up and the longer you take for sieges means that you'll have it for another prize a little bit later down the road. So iDavy's team, play this one patiently. Don't send Davy in to try and go for some wild plucks right now. Beads are up for everybody on the side of Team Seagyll. Aphrodite Ultimate is available. If you pluck somebody at this stage, you're probably just going to die if you're Davy.
You have to play it carefully. Without the Enhanced Fire Giant, like that's the problem, right? If you had an Enhanced Fire Giant, pluck for days. Go in, do what you need to do. Without, you're in a little more of a dangerous spot, and that is exactly where they're sitting. Has to find some small opening. And as of right now, that opening is not going to present itself. Diving the Phoenix could be dangerous, especially with, like you said, some of the damage on the other side. Just like getting taunted like that could cause a little bit of trouble. Forces the beads, though, and that's a pretty massive win, all things considered. Now just try to defend and hold off as long as you can. Burn this Fire Giant. It's going to disappear a little under a minute, so you just have to hold out a little longer. Tiamat doing a great job. Mid, you're in a 1v2, and so far, the 1 is doing exactly what it needs to keep things alive. But it's this numbers, this transition from iDavy as they're starting to put 5 stack in mid. You have to match if you're Seagyll.
It's just such a weird split for iDavy's team. A 3-2 with a Runic Bomb does make a bit of sense, but now rotating this back and forth around between the mid and the left side is just scattering out your damage. That was a very risky teleport ward for Yor to go in. There's one much safer in the jungle to guarantee, and they just wasted a couple of seconds trying to channel that one, but still able to make it back with the rest of the team, but already starting to get some big poke that way, opening up the doors on the side of Team Seagyll, just making sure that they can keep some poke going iDavy's way. Fire Giant's about to wear off in just a couple more seconds here. This means that iDavy have effectively only gotten 2 towers with their Fire Giant buff and maybe a single pick. Actually, I don't even think they were able to get a kill during this one. So, not a whole lot of effort that way. Throw in the one Primal Fury that they had as well. So, 2 towers, Primal Fury. Gold goes up maybe about 5,000 gold at most during this time. But we're at the point where this gold lead isn't as important. I mean, 9,000 gold, sure, that's a lot of gold, but when you see it reflected into the builds, the dual lane is at the same exact point. The supports are sitting in the same itemization. Mid laners are pretty much there. The only real difference right now is with Dark. I assume once we see more of iDavy's team go back to base and see some of that gold spent up, you see the Sobek sitting on 2,100 in hand at this point, so a nice little extra boost whenever Davy does go back. But being 9,000 up at 30 minutes, this is not the lead that iDavy's team necessarily thinks that it is. Having Dark fully 6-slotted, that's a little bit more powerful for this next team fight.
Something you have to be careful of if you're Seagyll is going to be Dark, full slot, late game, Maman Brigitte. He's a very, very dangerous god to go up against.
My man Brigitte.
You also have to be very careful if you're Davy, because again, and this is going to be true always, if your pluck doesn't connect, luckily that one does, you're still putting yourself into an awkward position. Raven Ward flies by. It's going to be a small amount of reveals as well. And that Tiamat damage was absolutely insane. It goes to show, while it wasn't doing too much earlier, now finally starting to get online. Pyromancer goes down. Seagull's going to pick that one up. Pretty simply and straightforward. Now, it's just whether or not either of these teams can really engage. And this is the issue, and J-Mac, I keep hammering this one home, mainly with Aphrodite compositions, which is you don't get to choose a lot of your engage. You get to do really good counter-engage. So maybe it could be Gigovsky, that taunt, the blink, the ult, all able to create some displacement, maybe create an opportunity here in just a second. It might be Davy now. Goes for a Pluck Beads in reply. Actually, the ult, I believe he used, no, now in the Whirlpool. So trying to chase away, Charybdis in danger, has to play carefully. Hachi even shoots deep. They really, really want that kill, and they're going to find it, and they're going to find a little bit more than that as well. 3 gone, 4 immediately. Team iDavy is going to forego this Fire Giant with just Gigovsky left to defend. But are they going to turn? They're going to look for the Serket. Serket picks up one, spreads the poison, tries to get another one, but unable to. Dark with a triple, and now marching down mid. iDavy want to close this out and go to game 3.
Sometimes that 6-slot difference is all it takes for iDavy, or maybe more importantly, players getting too far out of position. Veyron is walking so far forward that he's the one getting plucked by Davy. When your backliner, who should be sitting as far back as they physically can in a fight to still do damage, is the one being plucked by frontliner Sobek, and still being near the front of the team is not a good look for Veyron. That was just awkward positioning by them that then forces them to use their relics, have to use their mobility out, and you're just able to chase them down. That team fight could have been won by Team Seagyll, because I think that that's a composition that is better on the counter initiation, the counter dive. Once the Sobek goes in, punish the Sobek and then go beyond there. But they just didn't play so. They were trying to play the aggressive card and the aggressive nature, but they're just not dealing enough damage. They're not quite tanky enough. And they have their frontliners or their backliner standing at the front of a team fight. I think if Veyron is not all the way up and caught by a Sobek, this team fight goes so much differently.
That's little changes, little moments like that make the big difference between whether or not this is a 2-0 or 3 full games, which is what we're getting. Again, all of this for seeding tomorrow to see who's going to be the true winner and come to LAN. Winner of the next game gets first seed. We'll find out who it is right after this.
Got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. I got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. Got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. I got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. This feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. Take this pain and be gone, though you're still my number one. Crucified by your love, I got nowhere else to run. Got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. I got this feeling inside that I can't put aside because I want you. Although I thought I was fine when I left you behind, I know I loved you. Take this pain and be gone, though you're still my number one. Crucified by your love, I got nowhere else to run.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SMITE Content Creator Cup. And this time we're going into game number 3, which for Davey has been common so far today. Between him and Seagyll, game 1, pretty overwhelmingly one-sided. Game number 2, not as overwhelming, but still pretty one-sided. And now game 3, who knows? And I like your little pyramid.
Yeah, unfortunately one of them fell over. I think I moved my arm a little too fast and I knocked over the top little pyramid of it. So now it's just flat.
Oh, these aren't actually connected that way.
Yeah, there's
little cells.
there's a gap right here, like on you see on the. No, that's so rude.
If it had worked over here, it would have been really funny.
It would have been
though.
really funny, and I probably would have laughed more. But now that you were going to be maliciously doing that against my side of the desk, I might have cried and walked off the stage. Only I.
I get this set alone, you say.
He's like, I get to be by myself? Get rid of that.
Game 2. Davey wins it. Now the question is, how'd they do? And the answer is pretty well. You can see that Dark is a pretty overwhelming majority of where a lot of their damage comes from there. And specifically, slams it out on the Maman, 6, 2, and 4. You get great number of assists, Davey. We were talking about it a little bit later. Their main point of engage, that pluck, did not give them a ton of CC to work with, but it did give them the CC necessary to get the job done. Unfortunately, on the other side, while we got to see it, and I think I'm going to look at it, yeah, Dutcher's damage, pretty high in consideration, but not high enough. I think took a little while to get online and took a little while to truly become the Tiamat that we were wondering and hoping to see. Gagowski didn't really get off to the run that they wanted, and the duo lane as well. Veyron, while able to keep up in damage, was unable to really get that same punch that I think we saw out of what Ragna was able to provide.
Yeah, I think both these compositions were much more late game slanted in the style of play that they wanted to go for. Maman, once she's 4 or 5 items deep, that's when her damage really starts coming online. Morgan Le Fay has great poke throughout the entirety of the game, probably has a much more solid early game than the Tiamat would, and then late game, your poke is just going to be better because, one, a good portion of it can't just outright be body blocked like Primordial Onslaught could be for Tiamat. For Morgan Le Fay, you just throw out giant circle, bam, it hits 3-4 people, and you're good to go. Happy days for you. But then your ultimate also has a really good amount of range to it and sustain that's built into there, and you're able to just poke from such a long distance while also being so safe. And then we just get to the point whenever team fights are breaking out, all you're waiting for on the side of Davy's team is for Davy to find the one person without beads, the one person who's not attached to the Aphrodite and has their beads down to get the pluck and go for the kill. That's all easy and good for you. On the opposite side, if you're on Seagyll's team, you're waiting for that Sobek to pluck because then you've got that easy target to go for the kill. But the problem is when Davy's going in and getting these plucks, he's pulling them off of the carries at full HP himself, and then Yor is just sitting around the side of the corner on the Bologna waiting for that person to beads, and then you could just jump yourself right in there, keep that team fight going. And oh, by the way, Veyron's now at half HP in the very last team fight. It makes it that much easier to just chase him down and go for these kills.
Well, we'll find out how it shakes out in picks and bans here for game number 3. Last one. And all it really does is determine first seed versus second seed tomorrow. Winner is first seed, second seed is the loser. And then they'll play again tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, in a best of 5 in order to determine who goes to LAN and who doesn't. So right now, again, just keeping things up for the seeding. And JMac, I'm more continually impressed with the fact that that is standing the longer I try this. I've never tried to stack cards before or make like a card pyramid.
It's not
At least not since like middle school.
It's not the easiest thing to do. You want to make sure
like how I could get
like you want to get cards that aren't too slick, but you want to get ones that don't have too much stick to them as well. Like they need to be like the perfect balance.
Okay, now here's the thing about how I don't. What does that mean? I didn't buy these cards. Like,
well, see, unfortunately, we didn't get to pick the cards, and when you try and stack them on a surface like this, it's maybe a little bit tougher. The easier part is getting the bottom layer. It's once you go beyond there, because you not only have to take into account the card you're stacking it on, but also when they start collapsing in a little bit more at the foundation. Good thing is once you have that there, it's easy just to push them up, and now nice and easy.
I would have laughed so hard if it had fallen over while you were doing that. Would have been the perfect time.
That would have been amazing.
Unfortunately, it didn't. Also, something worth noting is picks and bans are going on. So here we go. JMac did successfully get his little hut going.
What's up?
Cthulhu, Maman, Terra are the bans as of right now. The question is going to be how they follow it up. Medusa makes sense. That has been a very, very popular and very strong pick so far today. and they're going to hold on to that one. We've seen some Thor bans. We've seen Heimdall bans. There's definitely a lot of wiggle room for the last two.
Yeah, I feel that you can kind of ban just about whatever you really want to, whether that be a target ban that's at the enemy team or whether you want to kind of stick to the meta. Heim is one of those gods that has just been a European staple for so many different players, so I think it's just a very safe ban. He's also a very safe god, still plays very well even in the current meta. One of the few hunters that can start something like a Mannequin Scepter compared to like the Death's Toll or the Cows or Bluestones, depending on what kind of hunter is out there. But he also just does a good amount of damage and has pretty solid clear as well. So I think that Heim is just a normal, safe, no problem ban. If he is left open, then it's fine. It's not an end-all, be-all. So I think that so far, both of these drafts look about standard. I think the iDavy's is going more towards the targeted style of play, so that way they can get something that they're more comfortable on, like with this Heimdall.
And this is something Europe has been doing constantly for... I mean,
Heimdall's release.
We can literally say for years at this point. Yeah, because it... I did
Nice.
Hold on, I did it. That guys, that's pretty impressive.
Live on air. On camera, they caught it,
I don't want to touch the desk anymore.
I know, now's that fun part.
So now I get to sit here like this. What was I talking about? Heimdall.
You're talking about Heimdall.
Yeah, they've been playing a whole lot of Heimdall lately. And like you said, pretty much since his release, Heimdall has been this very prominent figure. He's been very solid for Europe specifically. And this is one of the only regions and level of play specifically where he can be picked first pick. And I don't disagree with it because we've seen him carry games from this position.
Yeah, Heimdall, there's no reason not to pick a Heimdall unless like the other 2 or 3 hunters that are just better than him are available at this point. I think it's just a very safe pick. The Bifrost is going to allow you to get in and out of a lot of dangerous situations pretty easily. The Gjallarhorn gives you knock-up immunity, so you don't have to worry about too many different matchups kind of messing you over in that regard. Plus, your ultimate is a great option where if you hit somebody that doesn't have beads, it's a great way to take a carry out of a fight, to throw a tank out of the fight, and allow your team to kind of continue that dive. Or if they dive under your tower without any kind of beads, which is a bad idea to do, just try to dive a Heimdall, in a 1v1, 2v1. He can then throw somebody out there and then make it a 1v1, or even just make it to where you are now stuck inside this tower or even deeper than you already want it to be. So I think the Heimdall is fine. No matter what you throw with him, it's going to be a pretty easy lane for him. Charybdis, Kuzumbo on the opposite side. Charybdis probably just going to be the direct matchup there. Give that one over to Veron once more. Kuzumbo can flex between support and solo. Probably out more towards solo with the way that Seagyll has kind of been going through. Makes it a pretty easy time there. So I think that what's been drafted so far from both these teams, nothing feels out of expectation or norm. It's mostly just which team they end up landing on.
Well, right now, Vulcan locked in as well, something that we got to see a little bit earlier today, and it did numbers when it was locked in. So it could, once again, do those numbers. It was 14-0-3 this morning when we saw it in game number 1 of the day. Will it be able to perform as well? Well, it performed strongly against Davy, so there's a good chance around it. You had mentioned the Kuzumbo, very, very solid overall. The Bologna gets locked in, though, and like you said, Kuzumbo more than likely, like he can flex, more than likely support. The Osiris, well, I was going to say was the matchup and has been the matchup. Since that's getting banned out now, I'm kind of curious, like what is the next bet? I feel like we've seen, well, Cthulhu once. We've seen Bologna and Osiris. So there's definitely other gods.
Yeah, we're unfortunately a patch ahead of the major Artio buffs, who would be probably the next big up if you want to go for a Guardian. Artio next patch going to be getting an insane amount of really good buffs that are going to help her sustain as well as just her general mana sustain on top of that. But that's not now. Instead, now we kind of have to deal with what would you want to throw in that solo. I think with an Osiris ban, and depending on what they throw with this next one, you could just throw this Kuzumbo in solo lane and then give something else over to your support in place. I wouldn't be upset with Kuzumbo rotating to either of these 2 lanes, whether it be solo or that support role. Again, can flex to both of them pretty nicely. With a Hebo ban, maybe a little bit questionable. I mean, Hebo did have a good game in game number 1.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that was necessarily a one-off instance where, a Hebo can't have 2 good games in a single set or 2 good games in a row.
You heard it here first. Clip that out of context.
But it feels like the Hebo was a pick to kind of more than anything catch Davy's team off guard to find a win. They did just that, and now they don't need to worry about bringing that out again. Ymir being picked up does mean the Kuzumbo most likely is now going to be pushed over to that solo lane. And Ymir into this composition is actually very strong. Only Baba Yaga without an ultimate can get over this wall. Then you throw in Bellona with the Eagles Rally, she can get past there. But I think more than anything, picking the Lance into Ymir is never fun, because if the Ymir knows you're about to Grand Joust out, toss up that wall, now you either have to pivot yourself to the left or right to get around it, or if you're in a jungle corridor, you're stuck. And there is no getting around that wall at that point.
Yeah, locked down completely and in a more dangerous position overall. Baba Yaga gets locked in alongside that, so some damage, good from the mid laner, and as the game progresses, late game hits incredibly, incredibly hard. The Naja, though, kind of catches me off guard, mainly because I'm used to seeing it combo with, like, the Ra. Still can combo with a Vulcan. Little more iffy on the timing, and you got to be a little more precise with some of those, because the Vulcan ult is a very slow traveling ult. But when you get the job done and you get the job right, then man, oh man, can this combination, this team from Seagyll really hit hard.
Yeah, really ever since Vulcan's ultimate changed, and this is years back, so this is not like something recent, when it got changed to be a little bit faster, mid laners did have to adjust to the old timing that they were used to for landing it off of big combos like Naja, like Kumbhakarn, whenever Vulcan was kind of maybe a little bit lower priority then, but now with the faster ultimate, you can make sure that the Naja gets that guaranteed landing, and I think the approximate timing is once the Naja is like up in the sky and hits that first hit of it, if you're at max range, you should be firing it already by that point so they land straight into the damage. If you're a little bit closer, then you can wait till maybe another hit or two lands before you fire that one out. So it's mostly just a feels and timing thing, where on someone like Ra or Thoth or somebody like that, it's much easier to time, because you're not like sitting there waiting, okay, well, I have to channel this thing for 2-3 seconds before it finally lands, or you know, I have to fire it from so far away. Ra and Thoth are those much more immediate ones. Thoth, you can quick fire shotgun the ultimate, or you can charge it up pretty much the second that a Naja it connects with their target. Whereas Ra, you just literally wait until they're about to hit the ground. You listen for that third hit, and you charge it up, and then by the time they touch ground, they're dead at that point. But Vulcan operates very similarly, so this is going to be a very heavy pick style composition for Team Seagyll. See if you can catch somebody with the Ymir wall out in the jungle, punish them for that one, wait for the Sobek to try and pluck into you, pick them off from there. More than anything, I think Vulcan right now, before his nerfs come in 11.6, is one of the more powerful mages that you can get your hands on, just because his turret does proc those ability effects now, whether that be Sands of Time, Conduit, Soul Gem, Soul Reaver. All those kinds of options are available to the Vulcan, even Tablet of Destinies as well. So getting that out there makes it so much easier for him to poke and constantly apply pressure in that mid lane, and gives him a little bit of warrant for people to be turret maxers early on.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if we'll get a turret maxer, but we will see how the Vulcan fares, and I guess maybe if we will get a turret maxer here in game number 3. Again, winner is first seed tomorrow in the best of 5. Loser is second seed tomorrow in the best of 5. They're going to be playing no matter what for their chance to come to LAN and on behalf of their own charities get a donation of a charity they have chosen. And of course that then will be determined based on their seeding in the final LAN in July. Something we'll be waiting, I think, with high anticipation. I'm really excited to see that, especially because I'm excited to see the North American teams that come and make it there as well. J-Mac?
What's up, Core?
I'll open the field. What do you want to talk about?
What do we want to talk about? Let's take a look at the builds that are kind of popping up here. None of the builds really seem out of the ordinary. Sigill's kind of becoming the standard for that solo lane. Maybe just the Chronos Pendant Rush that's going to be coming immediately after for Seagyll. I mentioned it with Mifflin, but this feels very Mogao coded from whenever Lamogao was kind of running in the SCC. Things like the Kumbhakarna, the Jormungandr, all that kind of stuff. He would often run defense plus, or defensive style of starter item plus Chronos Pendant. I think you're afforded to be able to do something like that as Seagyll, so long as you don't anticipate being camped very heavily in that lane. Since you're going up against double physical, I would have rather seen Breastplate, but then you have absolutely zero clear whatsoever, so it almost becomes a necessity to have some kind of damage. And if you're going to go damage and you want a cooldown, you might as well just go into the other 20% CDR item. So I think it's fine for Seagyll to run something like that. It's becoming a little bit more common over there. And as far as any other kind of like zaniness of builds goes, Mannequins is a standard for Ragnar on the Heimdall. That's just kind of the easy starter item. Makes your clear super, super fast in the jungle. And you already have AoE cleave clear on your regular in-hand. throwing a mannequins in there just doubles how fast you're going to be clearing those minion waves.
Freeze. I'm actually really excited to see the Ymir versus Sobek. The block that you can provide against the pluck is massive. And Davey forced to pluck in the wrong direction. Can't quite escape that way, but is going to do a rope-a-dope
so
run
much time.
around, ring around the Rosie, get through past the rock, load down, one more auto, they get it, and unable to find the return despite the low health bar. The Ymir stays kicking, and first blood goes to Seagyll, but it might not be the only kill. You need a little more. Can't believe you dive the tower. It's trading out 1 for 1, 2 up now for Seagyll, but a kill nonetheless for Aim Blue in mid.
That kill could have come just a little bit easier and a little bit faster if Aim Blue did not miss that first ability. Throwing out that Witchfire Magic just completely whiffed on the Y, threw it off to the side. Not sure if he didn't pay attention to what shape he was getting or if it was just a thinking Dutcher was going to run towards tier 2 as opposed to tier 1, but misses that first ability, forces the dive just a little bit further. At that point, I would have just given up on the dive, said, well, we missed, don't have the damage, but Aim Blue calling that he still has a potion available, calls for the dive alongside Dark. They get the kill, but trading out under tower this early does not make that kill worthwhile, especially because you didn't trade after a first blood.
I love the damage that's coming out right now. Davey, despite an early spill, not playing passively, not playing as if anything's going to go wrong, instead playing just as aggressively as he has pretty much the entirety of this tournament. And something that has gone and treated him incredibly well throughout all this has been this Sobek. In fact, playing aggressive around the purple buff, looking for an invade. Gigovski's in the jungle and in a position to make a rotation. So this will be a 3v2. They get the purple buff, and that'll get scooped up by Ragna, who can, yes, use the Bifrost to get on out of there. Good pluck from Davey. Good wall coming out from La Revolution, but unfortunately unable to lock down who he's looking for. Instead, they'll lock down somebody else. Davey will lose his life for their trouble. Now, 3-man invade onto the purple buff. And Ragna, I love this, grabs it immediately and brings it to the back of the tower line. Going to force you to go deep if you wanted to try and win this one.
Yeah, one of the few gods in the game who can pull off a play like that is the Heimdall. Not only by having access to the Bifrost, but being able to have those cleave auto attacks plus the mannequins means that your jungle clear is just through the roof. You saw how fast the two of them were able to steal that one away, thanks to the extra dot damage that's afforded to Ragna from there. Plus going the Golden Shard. I mean, this is just such an easy, clear style of build for Ragna, which with a god like Heimdall that already has good clear, just expedites it that much faster and makes your invades that much simpler. So I like the call. Unfortunately for Davey, he does have to sacrifice himself for the sins of the dual lane by going for that invade, but I don't think Davey's too concerned about that at this stage of the game. He's sitting the same exact level. Vulcan ult used to clear
I love
minions.
Vulcan ults.
Dude, I love mid lane mage ultimates that are just there to clear the wave. Like, in your first, like, 4 instances of raw ult, if you're not planning on fighting, what else are you using that ultimate for? Just clear out the wave and go back to base.
Well, right now they're clearing out a whole lot of stuff. I was wondering if we were going to get to see a 1v1, but the answer is no. Pressure. Really coming out from the dual lane presence of Sobek, despite the fact that Davey's down 0-2-0. But what, if anything, can Dark provide on this? Lancelot comes in, unfortunately misses some of the damage. Leap forward, jump forward, I should say. Stun connects, and there's the watery grave into the jousting fields. A couple of tower shots go the other direction, but Yor gets out of there just in time, and they get a clean kill onto Seagyll.
Took a little bit more than they wanted to. They probably did not want to have to use both ultimates to chase out that Kuzenbo, but once you get Watery Grave online, it becomes very difficult to really gank that Kuzenbo efficiently, especially if you don't have some form of channeled knockback immunity. Nice little ring toss into an immediate ultimate. Aim Blue on landing will go down. That's an easy combo. Don't even need the ultimate from Vulcan. Meatball backfire just makes for a nice easy 1-2 on the ground. So a pick on the mid laner will be good for Team Seagyll to try and re-cement their lead back up, because even after that first blood, it's been a very quiet game from Team Seagyll, and Dutcher getting a little bit of return and revenge up against his lane opponent. But this Skull Fury's a bit early, but no one's here to defend this.
You've got Secure, you've got burst damage, might as well go for it. That's exactly what Dutcher does. And that's going to be a pretty nice, not like you, wow, like you just said, it is in fact going to be a nice early Fury. And while it scales pretty darn well, and later in the game it gives you a lot more, JMac, it's not a bad time to pick it up. So getting it just after the 5-minute mark, you're talking still sub 1,000 gold, but a lead nonetheless for Team Seagyll. Those kills paying off as well as they start to put that pressure onto the map, which is a great proactive play that I'm personally a big fan of.
Doug, could we hover over Dutcher and see what he is maxing out right now in lane? It's probably his 1 and 3. Okay, it is his backfire. I mean, that's
1 and then 2 points in the turret.
That's the lame, normal, proper, actual way that you should be starting it, but like, turret's so much more fun. Like, the surprise damage of you walking in and taking like 200 damage from a turret shot this early in the game, it'll stun you. Not literally stun you, but it'll metaphorically have you stunned because you're like, wait, that's turret. Like, it's not supposed to have any points in that. Why did I just get smacked for a quarter of my HP for walking through it 2 times? It's also really just good for objective push, but who cares about that when he's just getting dove under mid lane?
Yeah, endangered, something that you should be able to do to a Vulcan because he's not incredibly mobile. And it gets the damage done, gets the kill on the board, and iDavy steps up 1 more, 3-4. Maybe find a little bit beyond as they get a pluck on Gagowski. That's going to be a great 2-man freeze. B delays that. Walls off 2. Might still be in a dangerous position. Great body block coming out from Dark. But a better sash, but you might have just sashed back in to your own demise. Gagowski forced to use all sorts of things to run away, but unfortunately will not survive. Does trade out. Dark overcommits for the kill. And they get at least 1. Now they might be able to get a little bit more. Vulcan's back, and they are committed to this Ymir. La Revolution survives, and the jungles trade out.
Starting to turn into a bit of an arena game right now with how much fighting's happening over here in the mid lane. Don't hate the fight. Late game of both teams is very strong, so trying to utilize that early pressure that you have, especially one with a Vulcan, can do a lot of extra surprise damage. Like right here, just having that turret down makes it so threatening for the Sobek to walk too far for it, but not if you're able to walk away from the actual cone area range of that turret. The Revolution goes down there probably unnecessarily, but might instead set up for at least a little bit of farm. You saw Seagyll rotate over in case the fight got a little bit worse, but ends up holding out for the time.
Now, Dark, you're actually getting aggressive, making me hold my breath for a moment. So we get a small reset, small break, I was going to say, from the action. But look at the positioning on the mini-map. Look at Dasher. Look at Gagowski. Dutcher, I should say. Getting aggressive, go in, get the Bull Demon. You get the ult as well from Yor. Now you need something. A great freeze.
There's the wall.
Stalls things out. Wall, like you said, you called that one in Picks and Bans. Stops the Jousting Fields from being as aggressive. Ymir, hung out to dry, will go down, but it is a trade for the objective. Maybe a little more. Look at the positioning here. You're looking for more of a fight. Gagowski playing in a weird spot and a dangerous game nonetheless. It actually seems like the rest of the team has left him alone. Haven't gotten to see too much out of the Kuzenbo in comparison to what the Bologna has been providing. Now a 1v1 with the minion wave. Have to play it careful, and then there's the Charybdis part. You stay real safe. And so the excitement that I thought was about to happen in duo falls and fizzles out. But JMac, it is you know, something I want to go back and double down on. Less impact so far from Seagyll than we've seen out of Yor.
Yeah, a lot of action has happened towards Seagyll so far this game. The gank over in Soul Lane certainly didn't help him out going down up against the Bologna and the Lancelot. But Kuzumo is also one of those at this stage. He's not tanky. He built Sigil into Chronos Pendant, so he's going to do a little bit more damage. But if you commit too far in, you just don't have the defenses yet to really stand up as long as a Bologna can. Plus, Bologna, by going into this build immediately by grabbing that Shogun's Kasari, means that she's going to get so much more value for her and her team. That's going to get you 0 value for Gagowski, missing out on ultimate, and maybe most of his life. Beads there just to save more than anything. Gagowski lose out on so much for that one small miss. Most of his HP bar, ultimate off the mark, and now beads on cooldown. Gagowski has not really been able to get this Naja working just yet.
Yeah, it's been a slow roll. The combo looked beautiful a little bit earlier. but we've seen it once, right? Overall, in comparison to what it should be doing and what it could be doing, which is a lot more pressure and a lot more progress in mid, combos in mid, what I expected to see. So, keeping our eyes on this Naja and growth. How do you like this build? But I feel like we've seen this a little bit, and it's been this conversation of a small amount of back and forth. Rush the Blackthorn Hammer, then get the Jotuns. Or, in this case, rush the Jotuns, then get the Blackthorn Hammer. Both junglers do it this time around. How are you feeling about it? I mean, Blackthorn's been pretty good, as it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Blackthorn's fine. For a god like Naja, it's going to hurt your damage a little bit because you're lacking on one of those crucial stats that Naja wants, whether that be the penetration, either some form of sustain, or some kind of tankiness with it. Sure, you're going to get a lot of extra HP. You're going to get a decent bit of power as well. But missing out on, more than anything, Pen and some of that immediate access to CDR or that extra bump in damage like something a Hydra's Lament would provide, I feel that it works better for gods like Naja. But at the same time, Naja is also a god that just wants to be a little bit tankier than others because you're much more of an all-in commit setup style of play. You're very rarely going to run into Najas these days who are going to be running that glass cannon style of build. So this is probably the better build path to do so. I probably would have been fine with how the game has been going with it running its current path, but if this game were any slower, I would have probably taken instead the Blackthorn route so you can get your tankiness immediately, and then you can kind of just farm up and kind of coast to get that Jotun's Rat. So I think it's fine for Lancelot. Similar path. Lancelot already has a lot of damage in his kit, has a lot of safety with that horse. Remember, only immune to stuns while he's mounted on top of that horse, and if his shield runs low, hop off the horse and jump back on, and now your shield can start regenerating. And by having more HP, it means that you're going to get more value from the shield because the shield is a percent value of your HP as opposed to just a flat value there. So I think the Blackthorn works a lot better on the Lancelot than the Naja in terms of wanting to stay alive and deal damage. But it works fine with the Naja because you're going to be the one going in the fight like so.
And up, down, there's going to be the combo. Exactly what we wanted to see. Eyes on the Naja. Naja delivers. And Dutcher was the addressee of that one. 6-6 for the kills. Just shy 12 minutes in. Beacon is going to be spawning here in a second, J-Mac. So maybe that number advantage makes a difference. It's 20 seconds and it's on the solo laner, so might not be the biggest impact in the world. The Bull Demon, on the other hand, pretty big impact. Means you can start clearing up some of the wards that are on the board, get a little more gold in your pockets. And of course, it's going to be golden experience for the team all around anyway. Beacon on the board. Numbers-wise, not a lot of attention really being paid to it, although now you can see, at least mid lane, jungle, soon to be support, stepping up for iDavy, trying to take control of this. And with how low some of the towers are getting, and more specifically, guys, you got to stand on it to finish the capture, to get things done, it looks like that left-hand lane is getting a little bit out of control. And this Beacon, as you see there, is going to help out immensely by just getting rid of it.
Yeah, send the tower crumbling down. I've also noticed a small bit of a trend in some of these games with the Bull Demon, and it's that the team that doesn't think that they can clear Bull Demon right away is typically dropping less wards around the time of its spawn. That way you can't give the enemy, you know, that free gold and whatnot. But the teams who are a bit more aggressive and the teams who think that they have the potential to clear out that one are dropping the more aggressive wards in enemy lines, just making sure to keep that vision because they think and they know that they can deal that damage out there. So it's a very interesting dynamic we're seeing, and a pretty standard Naja combo, though. Miss wall there, at least from the Ymir, means that for the time being, Dark will get to make it out of this fight.
Reset. Reduce, reduce, recycle. All of them fall back and do exactly what they need to do here in terms of prolonging this Gold Fury fight. Oracles are going to spawn in a second. Vision should probably go over towards iDavy. J-Mac, are there any, like, when I'm looking at it, and specifically I think I'm looking towards the mid lane right now, and it feels normal. Maybe we'll see it damage-wise looking good as they try to pour everything they have into Davy. But I'm looking at Dutcher. And what a beautiful wall to keep him locked in. Davy with the meatball goes down. And that one is all delivered, hand-delivered by the Ymir in the exact way you would want it to be played. And now they can get aggressive. Now they can start to look for, say, a Pyromancer. At least starting it up, try to get a fight afterward, take Dark up into the sky. Naja not going to get a lot done on their own, but with the wall afterward and the burst damage, my god, they've got what they need. Good Aegis from Dutcher, and a great rotation from Seagyll, putting it all on the board and picking up the kills now. The Baba in danger, gets aggressive, plays to try and find the kill onto the Vulcan, can't quite get there, instead locked down, killed off, and they just keep walking in one by one, and Team Single comes out on top.
Yeah, Dutcher literally standing in front of iDavy's team with a fishing pole and dollar bill, baiting them forward, saying, come on, guys, you've almost got me. My life is almost down. And what happens? Dark says, bet, let's go. Dives in with the Grand Joust, and as soon as he dismounts, Dutcher presses Aegis. And he lives through Kuzenbo, able to peel him out. Great work by Seagyll. And then what happens? Dutcher walks back forward again. He says, look, guys, I'm still low HP. Well, who wants to come get this tasty bait on the hook? It's Aim Blue who walks up. Misses their abilities. Dives into the back line. Dutcher walks away, says, my job here is done. And Yor and Davey Lever Lucian and Seagyll able to just go ahead and close out that kill and get themselves a nice little extra one on the board. So, in that fight, that was all played out perfectly by Dutcher. Gets the damage off that he needs, picks off one kill over by the beacon, goes back, nearly picks off another kill.
And dangles a dollar bill.
Dangles the dollar bill in front of Dark. Dark tries to go for it, turns out it's a counterfeit, jokes on you, Dark. And also, now you've gone to respawn jail.
Respawn jail.
You don't get to collect $200.
Do not,
or
do not pass go. Do not collect $200. And unfortunately, look, $200. Pretty good. That's good money.
I can use that right now, let me tell you.
The Gold Fury, or in this case I should say the Primal Fury, started up. Team Seagyll in control of it. Not completely locked down though. You got to be careful. Seagyll and crew are able to get it. Now they need the fight afterward. It's going to be a response from Team iDavy. Up into the sky goes the support. He does not come back down. La Revolution is traded out. But 1-for-1 support for support. You're going to be way happier if you got the Fury. Losing your jungler changes the tune just a little bit, though, and Team Seagyll is going to be the ones worried about that for now. 2-for-1 trade. Fury goes the way of the Chaos team. J-Mac enters this lull. Fire Giant is up, but that would be a very confident call from Team iDavy. I like this instead. Push up the lanes. Maybe try to get some pressure on this tier 2, or tier 1.
Much different fight when Ragna's able to show up, too, and finally get a little bit of impact on the map. He's kind of been stuck just farming passively over in the dual lane because fighting a Charybdis, it's almost the equivalent of fighting a Jingwei. Nothing's going to get done. You're going to accomplish nothing trying to box into them, especially when Charybdis, with some of her changes and kind of her itemization and build path, does box fairly well, but you're almost never going to get a kill, so it's one of those, like, is it even worth it kind of moments. But now that Ragna's able to rotate over, get towards these Gold Furies, start making his impact known on the enemy team outside of just the Charybdis, you're able to see the damage that he's able to output. Like the build path so far, going to a dominance, just focusing fully on those those auto attacks there. So I like what Ragna's going to be able to do in the late game, already at that level 19 as well. So that Mannequin's Mace just around the corner for him to level up. It means that around objectives, Ragna's going to be an absolute menace not only to enemy players, but also to the objectives for that extra damage that the Mannequins is going to be dealing.
We're in a good spot, getting aggressive if you're Team Seagyll. Tier 1 in mid seems to be the primary target. Might be a 1v1 over here on the left-hand side of the map, and it is going to be auto trades out. That Fury's getting involved. The health bars are getting low. You got to be careful of your Veyron. Here goes down to the Whirlpool. You get the Bifrost used if you're Ragna. It's so close to a, honestly, either way, solo kill. But I think we can all agree Ragna was coming out on top of that one, and that was a good disengage from Veyron to make sure things didn't go too far awry.
That small hesitation from both players. Ragna missing the ultimate does suck, but at the same time, would have just been pulling beads from Veyron. Now with the changes to Heimdall's post-fire of the ultimate, probably, honestly, might have still just been a losing trade had he connected with that one against Veyron. So I'm almost kind of glad he missed the ultimate, as weird as it is to say, just because he didn't run into the risk of it being beadsed away and then him losing out on the trade afterwards. Dark taken to the sky, no follow-up, and Kagowski off the mark with the sash. Does like ring toss for good poke there, but there was also just that tiny hesitation after, when you see Veyron pop the Aegis and then go into the Whirlpool form. Ragna started chasing, went in with the Bifrost, and was standing on top of the Whirlpool formation for just a moment. Maybe hold that thought as Kagowski getting a bit low here.
Davey goes for the pluck, pulls him back in, loses his life in the process, but for support for jungle, come on, that is a free call every time Davey recognizes what his goal should be. No ult here for Dutcher as it was just used. Instead, it means you have to retreat. Too much aggression coming from the other side. This tier 1 being the safe haven necessary for your lives to stay going. 11 kills to 9. It's only a 2-kill lead. 20 minutes in now. 5,000 gold to Team Seagyll has been able to maintain a pretty confident, comfortable lead all around, but it has not been going well the last couple of fights.
It's been a bit difficult for them. Like I said, if Ragna would have committed walking forward with the Whirlpool formation, you run into one of two risks. You either die to the damage of Whirlpool formation, or you don't get the damage after they pop out of the Whirlpool formation, and then you die from the in-hand there. But the trade-off would have been if Ragna would have walked forward with Veyron on that fight on the left side and just chased out, would have had the range to throw the sword down after landing and be able to get the kill up onto the Charybdis. But it's a pretty big risk going forward, so I can understand the hesitation there. But now as we start kind of grouping up for these team fights again, you have to keep mindful and watchful of Ragna, because once he gets that gold in hand at 1,500 mark in order to pick up that starter item, it's going to get a little bit dangerous fighting around this Mannequin's mace. Mid lane ultimate used by Dutcher, and it's just absolutely melting aim blue, and they're not done yet.
Yeah, aggressive, good sash, make sure to lock things down. Great wall as well, catches the jousting field at the end. It will still be a good disengage from Dark, but man, La Revolution made it hard for him. And that is the kind of play right now Team Seagyll is looking to put forward. Again, JMac, it's first seed that's on the line to play tomorrow and go to LAN. What these teams are going to do right now puts a little bit of pressure on them. Fury. That's what they're looking at. Oni Fury will give quite a good amount of push over to Team Seagyll. It is not unknown, but it is going to be just free. Unseen, unwanted by Team iDavy. They don't want to step up and cause too much trouble. Instead, they're going around, warding, clearing, and maybe even starting the Fire Giant and burning it down, and they know exactly how much time they have. Look at Davey, he's walking around. He's just a ward at this point to give them vision, but Seagyll sees it happening. Seagyll goes in, Seagyll tries, but Seagyll cannot get it done. 5-man Fire Giant here for Team iDavy. You lose Dark, so now it's down to 4. Chase is on. Can Seagyll catch up along with his squad to get anything done? Can they find somebody and lock them down just beyond Dark? And if the answer is no, this is looking like a massive swing and a massive advantage for Team iDavy, though it might cost them a tier 2 just to get it done.
Davey walks up, quick pluck back, just getting to the safety of the Phoenix, but a 5v4. Advantage should be over Team Seagyll, but again, you have to be careful of Ragna, and it's because of the build path that Ragna and Dark had went into that they're able to make a play like that. By picking up that Mannequin's mace, you saw those numbers, 148, 148, 148. And those are yellow numbers on top of the autos that are already hitting for 300 plus at that point. So Ragna is effectively hitting Fire Giant for nearly 500 damage in auto at that point. It makes it so easy for them to just absolutely melt through that Fury. On top of that, you throw what you're standing around with, Eagle's Rally, bonus damage for the team, and having that Shogun's Kasari, the extra attack speed for the team. So it's just amplifying Ragna's damage and burn potential to be able to make a play like that. So very, very strong call there from Team iDavy. They say, well, look, we can't go for a Fury. We can't go for a team fight. But we could definitely go for a Fire Giant instead. They take the coin toss. They lose Dark for it, but losing one for a Fire Giant play like that is a great way for Team iDavy to get back into this game.
Especially because it just got you the next beacon, which consequently got you a tier 1 tower, and you got the Pyromancer. would like it if somebody goes picks up that runic bomb.
Nah, it stays on the ground now.
I would. Yeah, but I'd like it to. I just no, put it in your inventory.
It stays there forever. Stays
pick
there
it up.
forever.
Your?
No, leave it there. Leave
Your?
it on the floor. Just to make a statement.
Hey.
I thought it faded there for
I'm
a
gonna
sec.
be.
I
be
thought
real.
it disappeared.
I'd get real mad at you if it was left on the floor.
Hear that? If you want Gormizer to be mad at you, leave your runic bombs on the floor in your games. Leave them there.
Oh
Cause
no.
chaos.
If they're in my games, I'm probably playing support. You can leave them for me.
Nah, I'm gonna make sure you're like,
Jamie goes, nah.
nah, you're chalice up. I'm gonna
pick it up and throw it in the jungle where nobody's standing.
No, I'm gonna be the one to stand on top of it, knowing that I can't pick it up, just so you can't do it. That's the ultimate power play. I can't pick this up, so I'm gonna stand here so you
Jamie,
can.
where's this malice coming from? Where's the hatred in your heart buried?
It is currently. I was gonna say like a date and time, but it's only like not even 6 p.m. on a Saturday. You know what? It's almost 6 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm getting hungry, Gore. I didn't finish all of my chicken and waffles.
You know what?
I'm getting hungry.
Understandable. Hangry is a true problem. Together, we can
just
stop
know
it.
it's not malicious towards you.
It's malice at the universe.
It's malice at the universe for denying me my chicken and waffles.
Well, they will not be denied. They, in this case, being Team iDavy, this Tier 2. Maybe they will. They don't have the numbers advantage as of right now. You have a 1v1 happening in mid, 4v4 over on left, and an inability to jump in and really break it down. And now you're in a spot. J-Mac actually kind of feels like we might just be sitting around waiting for
Next
a minute and a half?
Yeah.
For the next fire to respawn.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Take your time, everybody. Lean back, take a drink.
Yeah, get up, stretch your legs out, take a drink of water.
Uh-oh. Actually, Davey might go down here. Wall,
back down.
freeze. In a good position if you're Team Seagyll, but will there be a big fight? Got the Baba Yaga nearby. Good
angle.
damage. They get the primal. Great angle, like you said, from Dark. And it's going to be looking for a little bit more. They've lost the Fire Giant. This is just going to be pure a wall, but then a great stun. Good disengage from Dutcher. I can't believe it. Walks out of there alive. Ymir will lose his life. Gagovsky loses their life. And this Tier 2, it withstood an onslaught before, but it will not withstand any more. This is going to be a step forward and some gold in the pocket for iDavy.
Cannot believe that Dutcher made it out of that alive. Love Revolution and Gagovsky are getting the absolute biggest gold medals on this team for the amount of peel they provided to try and bail Dutcher out. They did, but they end up dying themselves because of it. A great wall from Revolution locks in that Lancelot ultimate. It's just been every single time that Dark has gone for that ult, Revolution is holding on to it, just saying, wait for it, you're going, and wall. Now you go absolutely nowhere. Yor then joins the fight, says, okay, I can go ahead and just kill this guy because I've got Eagle's Rally. I don't care about a wall. And then waiting for him on landing is Gagovsky with a sash to immediately bail Dutcher out. Dutcher now has to come up with a nice return play for his team. Stealing a Fire Giant would be perfect for that opportunity. He's got the best damage on the map to steal this one away and has such good range to do so. He just needs the tiniest line, but he just can't get past Davey to do so.
You have to create a little more space. There's going to be the shot, but it's just shy and a little too late. And it's a 5-man Fire Giant again for Davey. Now, moving forward, wall for the disengage from Team Seagyll. J-Mac, what was a pretty monumental, I mean, we were talking 5,000 just 8 minutes ago, has been brought down to now 0 as far as gold is concerned. Experience as well, pretty much collapsing in favor of Davey now. 1 level lead in support, and that's the only true difference, the only thing that matters as far as the experience chart goes. So as we approach the 28.5-minute mark, you can stand for a defense. I mean, do you like the Tier 2 setup here if you're Seagyll, or do you just step back and guard the Phoenix line?
You've got good defense on this. Vulcan, maybe not the most ideal mage to be clearing out waves, just because backfire, you have to get right up to the wave in order to clear at least the front and the back of the wave at the same time. You could always just use Meatball to try and help out with some of that poke. Drop down a turret from distance, you're pretty good, but I think one reason that I would stick around for the Tier 2 defense is having a Ymir. Putting that wall up in front of your tower means that they can't fire through it unless they're playing a character like Rom, which there is no Rom on the map, so you don't have to worry about that. But you also just have good counter engage. If Team iDavy dives just a little too far in, there's a lot of good CC and disruption from Team Seagyll to really be able to punish that. For example, you're walking up and almost quite literally dying to just about anything.
Well, damage in the return, if you can find that kill, would be massive, but instead it's good peel on the other side. And you have to play carefully if you are Team Seagyll, because you don't want to overextend into iDavy's hands. You're, like you said, is going to have to fall back. Has the teleport, though, so shouldn't be too far away. In fact, we'll be able to come in pretty deep. Good blink, good damage. But oh my god, the turnaround! Dark bites off more than he can chew. And that is what you need from Team Seagyll. Now, even if Yor comes back in, which he has right side of the map, right side jungle, you're at a numbers disadvantage for almost a full minute.
Team Seagyll with two great defenses there. Great turnaround and recognition from Dutcher to go help out Gagowski, because the Naja was dead to rights there. That should have been a kill for Dark, but as soon as that sash stun and damage connects, Dutcher's meatball then pushes Dark away. Ring toss is good for the follow-up damage after that one, and now Dark on the respawn screen for about another 20 seconds. That gives Seagyll time to start grouping around this Fury, but Oracle Vision is there, so Team iDavy knows that this would happen. This would be a risky call to go for Seagyll. They do have good secure again with the Vulcan ultimate, but using it now would be fine unless you're planning on going for a team fight a little bit afterwards. You want to hold that ultimate if you can, but might just go for the secure. It's good there for Seagyll in the fight after as well.
Aggression, damage, Yor the one being taken out. JMac is just 1 for 1. Frontline for frontline. Relatively open position. Nothing too crazy happening. We still have a relatively even gold lead. That Fire Giant's wearing off relatively soon as well, so the 3 members that have it. Nothing too open. Davey still lurking, looking for a pluck. Might actually be the one getting plucked up to the sky. Damage is there. Brought back down. Follow-up from Dutcher. And it's more than enough to get the job done, but you trade out 1 for 1 one more time. Now chasing him down, looking for the last little bit of damage. This is just a bloodbath, trading back and forth. And ultimately, it seems like Seagyll will get out of here. This Tier 2 will fall down. And I'm trying to remember the kill count prior to this. I'm pretty sure everybody went up the same amount.
Yeah, pretty even trade
300
throughout
gold?
there. You get a Fury for the side of Team Seagyll, which gives you a little bit of a bump, but Pyromancer's about to respawn, so that's going to essentially go net even more than anything. That Oni Fury, valuable, but when there's still a Tier 1 tower in the left side, it's not nearly as much value for Team Seagyll. Sure, you can get an Oni wave that's kind of pushing up towards that right side and threatening a little bit of Phoenix, but you're not going to get a whole lot from there. It's mostly the gold value you're getting at this stage of the game and at this current map state. So Pyromancer evens out the gold trade that you get from those objectives. So not a bad look there for iDavy. iDavy actually absorbing the Naja ultimate might be the saving grace for Dark in there, because then the stun lands from Gagowski and knows that he doesn't need to worry about a follow-up ultimate incoming there. And then Ragnar sitting so hard at this stage of the game. Normally, you kind of pick between going either Titan's Bane or Dominance for some of your characters, because you would usually slot in something like an Odysseus bow just to get that extra huge burst of attack speed. But in this instance, Ragnar foregoing the Odysseus bow and instead getting both of those pen items. So not only do his autos just have more natural pen, he's also reducing prots via Executioner and just ignoring whatever prots are left with that Titan's Bane. Love this build from Ragnar. It's allowing him to hit not only enemy gods, but also these objectives extremely hard.
It's made things a lot easier around this Fire Giant. That's for sure. Now we might actually get to see that. It's enhanced this time around, which gives us a very different dynamic than the first few times we've seen this Fire Giant. Each time it's gone towards iDavy, the 2 Fire Giants that have happened so far, they have been able to get a little bit, but not really broken too much. In fact, if anything, while they crawled forward, 2 Fire Giants, 5,000 total gold, and really it just evened things out. Raven Ward as well reveals a little bit of the dance of what's going on inside the FG pit. Seagyll, I'm going to say it has had a good performance on the Kuzenbo, but I'm going to follow it up with a sentence that is forgetful because I can't think of the stuff that he's been doing. But, I mean, 1-1 and 6 has been having a pretty big impact. It's just making sure that it happens, and this might be the spot where it will happen. Ragnar, you've been mentioning lots of damage. The question is, what can he do around the Fire Giant, and is it solo it? The answer is no. Getting relatively low, needs some help from the team, needs something. In fact, they might be down a man for a little bit here while he tries to heal up using the Devo Gauntlets.
Yeah, he's going to heal up a little bit, but by using that sword toss, he's going to hamper some of the sustain. As long as there's a minion wave nearby, he should be okay, but he's not going to be at full unless he goes back to base. He's going to need multiple waves and multiple camps in order to kind of heal himself back up. Some natural HP 5, so it'll take a little bit before Ragnar's back at full strength. But he is not at a level where, even though he's doing a ton of damage, he's not able to solo Enhanced Fire Giant. This is the stage where you need your tank there. You need 2 to 3 people to be able to kill this objective, even with the build path that he has. Yes, he hits hard, but he's getting hit harder and is not able to sustain, especially if you're tanking up. Fire Giant just reduces that damage and healing output that you have.
Good knock-up from Davey, at least prolongs his life a little bit, and the dash away. Remember, and this is actually maybe even bigger than the fact that they get seeding for tomorrow, Davey has not lost a set. This team has not lost a set the entire Content Creator Cup. Team Seagyll giving them a run for their money right now. See what they can do. Enhanced Fire Giant standing menacingly, imposingly over everybody else. But still far in the background. Control of the pit, I'd give it over to Seagyll. J-Mac, it's all about the engage. Teleport going to be coming through. Locked up is your great wall, great push. You just need some great damage behind it, and you seem to have it. They've got the burst and a taken down your Bologna off the board, and now numbers advantage for a full minute over to Team Seagyll.
I don't think Team iDavy, and yours specifically, was expecting to be able to teleport into that ward. You saw all eyes of Team Seagyll turn. They saw a ward, and they had that moment where the gear clicked, and they went, wait a sec. They're teleporting in front of 4 of us. What if we just kill them instead of killing the ward? They wait out the duration, and you can only do this if you have gods like Ymir that can just completely cut off an obstacle and a path there.
Otherwise, you just jump away if you're Yor.
Yeah, otherwise, you dash away, you jump away, no big deal if you're the Bologna. Or they just kill the ward in that place. But that's a rare moment where a team letting the ward teleport go through pays off so well for them because they know they're at the stage of the game they can kill the Bologna. It might take some time, but they'll be able to kill them. And if they're not willing to use or don't have access to Eagle's Rally, then that long duration, 5-6 seconds, that wall sits up for Ymir is just a death trap for whoever teleports in. So I actually really love that on-the-fly adaptation that Team Seagyll made because you saw they were ready to kill the ward, and then they realized what they had access to. You okay, Gagovsky?
You know, we've asked ourselves that a few times this game, and the answer, at least for now, is yes. Not only okay, but feeling pretty darn good because the team around you is getting everything done that you need. Good damage from Seagyll, zoning people out. Dark taken down. Enhanced Fire Giant on all 5. I mean, everything in the last 10 seconds that could have gone well for Seagyll has gone well. Gagovsky with good sashes, slows, trying to close the gap here. You don't have too much that you can do. Need a teleport, which is actually 20 seconds away here from Seagyll. So it looks like a retreat and a reset from the team. Spend some of this gold. They've been standing around staring each other down for a little while, and then J-Mac, an Enhanced Fire Giant, opens up a lot of opportunity.
It's going to take some time. Team Seagyll to really make use of this Fire Giant. Sure, you have EFG. It's going to make your tower push a little bit easier. Phoenix Sieges as well. You do have a Runic Bomb in Gagovsky's pocket, so you can send him over to one of the opposite lanes. Send the other 4 of your members to one Phoenix to try and push this one down. I'd send the 4 over to the left side, take down that tier 2, and then send Gagovsky up mid lane. To have split push that on his own. He won't fully win out on a 1v1 versus Dark. I think Dark has just a bit too much damage compared to the tankiness that Gagovsky has. So I think that 1v1 would go slightly more in favor of Dark, especially having that Bumbus Hammer to kind of go along with both of them there. But it's still going to be a little difficult to siege into. Baba Yaga's got good siege defense, jumps at home sweet home. You got those fireballs that you throw down. Pretty easy damage. pretty easy to apply damage as well, especially having Soul Reaver, Soul Gem means you're going to get a lot of really quick procs on the enemy team. It all comes down to the initiation if iDavy's team goes in first. You have Bologna, you have Lancelot, you have Sobek. You pick one of the ones. I'd leave the Lancelot over on the right-hand side over here towards mid. And I would just wait for Team Seagyll to initiate if I'm iDavy's squad. I would wait for them to try and make the first move because you have no reason to be the one to initiate. You want to catch that Ymir out of position when he walks into your Phoenix. You want to catch that Kuzenbo when he goes for a dash on your carry, just like they're trying for now.
Well, there's the Kuzenbo who goes in, spins around with the watery grave, and is looking maybe for iDavy, who's isolated right now. Damage is good, and it's Veyron who puts him into the ground. Have to play it carefully here, though. A lot of leaves, a lot of low health bars. Does not matter when you got a carry that's hitting like this. Picks it up. Gagowski as well shows up for the team. 4 gone, and you only lose 1. But J-Mac, it's an awkward spot. You lose your carry with the ability to take down these Phoenixes. You are low health bars back from Seagyll. Heals up, teleport in. Benefit of it being on cooldown not too long ago. Now Gagowski, mid lane, walks in, takes down the Phoenix. Left side bird should go down. You've got 30 more seconds and nothing to worry about here other than aim blue. What can this Baba Yaga do? Can this Baba Yaga stand between iDavy and their first defeat? They're going to try, but the damage just is not there. The Vulcan provides too much, and the 4v1 is stronger. Seagyll, first team to take down Davy and set this Content Creator Cup, and your first seed going in tomorrow.
I'm just wondering why Aim Blue held Ultimate for so long. An entire team fight happened, and Aim Blue was twiddling his thumbs under the Phoenix, holding on to Ultimate. If when iDavy is diving to the backline, when Dark is going in, if you have Aim Blue right behind them, throwing out those Witchfire magic from that Ultimate, you're going to get so much more damage off. You're going to provide so much extra support for your team because they're not going to want to stand in that damage. But Aim Blue just sat there and waited for them to walk back at the Phoenix, throws down all the bolts, and then goes, well, that's all I've got. I guess I'll just sit back and wait for them to inevitably come my way. And then Vulcanult comes back online because he was doing a lot of fighting and a lot of kills came their way. Naja Ultimate comes back up to literally pick him up at the end of the game, so he doesn't even get a chance to defend. It was just such an awkward team fight. And again, I think that they made the right play, waiting for the Kuzenbo, waiting for the Ymir to make the first move. The follow-up was just not there, though. I think if Aim Blue, as soon as that Kuzenbo dives into that Phoenix and you see the carries closing in, if you're Aim Blue, you pop into that ultimate, you fire off that home sweet home, you get that damage out there, and you try and force them back. But he was just sitting there throwing a potion here and there, throwing out that AO1 a little bit, and just couldn't get anything going. I think just needed to fire that ultimate just a little bit faster to get that fight in a better position for his team.
Unfortunately for them, there's a lot of stuff you can say, like 2020 hindsight, always really good, but in this case, you still lost the game, and it is a 2-1 victory for Seagyll. Now, there's a lot of things that go right, and there were a lot of things that caught me off guard, because early on, I mean, we were talking about it in the Naja and the Kuzenbo. It felt like there were moments where I'm like, you know what? Y'all have been doing a great job. For Kuzenbo specifically, there were times where I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it really, really good. Towards the end, we got to see it a lot more. Seagyll was just absolutely bullying people. 1-1 and 11. You can see in the assists. Same thing for Gagowski there on the Naja. 5-5 and 15. The kills were not what mattered. It was the assists. Those led Dutcher to just, I mean, you lead him to water, and Dutcher was drinking it up. 10-9. The Vulcans today have been impeccable.
Yeah. Dutcher guzzling down the water that's been provided to him. Two games now, this set alone, going 10-2. First on the Medusa and now on the Vulcan. I think, though, and maybe right to highlight, star of the show probably goes to La Revolucion on the Ymir. Fantastic walls throughout that game. Most of them towards Dark.
52,000 damage.
No, look, Revolution may not have done a ton of damage. His mid laner more than made up for that one. Gagowski even as well. With kind of the stranger build, I was wondering how much damage Gagowski was really going to do in these fights. But 32k on a single target damage dealer who built into defense as well. Impressive damage coming out that way. Veyron didn't get to be as much of a star as he has been in some of the previous games where he could go for these solo kills up on the enemy. But that's also because aside from the literal one instance of a 1v1 chance that we saw, Ragna and Veyron were just kind of waiting for these team fights to kind of happen through. But yeah, I mean, damage Vulcan's got it in spades.
And then some. Like you said, it covered up. You look at just player damage there, and yes, you did enough for you and the Ymir, realistically. But it goes to show that the Ymir, like the player damage numbers, was really nothing in comparison to what he was providing wall-wise, stun-wise, setup-wise. And, of course, that makes a big difference. Now, what does all of this mean, and what does that win end up meaning for them? Well, that means that tomorrow, when we watch these two teams play again, that's right, they will be playing one more time, again, they're going to be playing in a best of 5. Now, what is the difference between this best of 5 and today? Well, today it was just seeding. Tomorrow, winner goes to LAN, loser doesn't. One team advances, and that's what matters. Seagyll will be the number 1 seed over iDavy, and the question is going to be who can come out on top. After today, we got 3 games. Tomorrow, I'm starting to anticipate potentially 5 if that's the case, and if they play the way that they did just now in terms of competition. Question marks all around. I'm really excited for it.
And the thing is, like, there's a little bit of weight on this one as well because you're the lone single EMEA representative coming out to the LAN against
you can't
3
show up tomorrow
North
and then not
squads.
show up at the LAN.
Like, winning this one is going to be a big one for either of these teams. They get to come out to the studio, get to compete for charity and all that great stuff there. But then you also, again, now get to face off and be the representative. Is Europe, is EMEA still just as strong in Season 11 as it has been in Season 10 of SMITE, Season 9, 8, 7, all the way back down? EMEA have been some of the kings of some of this amateur scene. We'll see if they can step it up for this one as well.
Well, that question going to be answered tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's where you're going to be here or want to be here to watch the full best of 5. But for now, from myself, from JMac, everyone, of course, back in production, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Made in Georgia.